What if the history we know is only half the story? Across the world, ancient ruins whisper secrets of civilizations lost to time. Massive stones aligned with the stars, writings no one can read, and artifacts that should not exist. Were these just human achievements, or clues to something far stranger? Join us as we unlock the greatest ancient mysteries that still leave scientists speechless. High in the Peruvian Andes, at more than 4,000 meters above sea level, lies one of the most mysterious landscapes on Earth, the Marcahuasi Plateau. Stretching out like a natural balcony above the clouds, Marcahuasi is not only a geological wonder, but also a cultural and spiritual enigma that has puzzled explorers, archaeologists, and mystics alike for decades. What makes Marcahuasi stand out from other Andean plateaus is not only its breathtaking altitude and unique topography, but also the strange and seemingly intentional shapes carved into its massive rocks, shapes that resemble human faces, animals, and symbols from an unknown past. So, what do you think are the giant stone formations on the Marcahuasi Plateau? A random product of nature, or the remnants left behind by a lost ancient civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. The plateau itself is a stark yet mesmerizing expanse. The air is thin, the sky is piercingly clear, and the land is surrounded by steep cliffs that make the site feel almost isolated from the rest of the world. To reach Marcahuasi is to undertake a journey into a realm suspended between earth and sky, where silence dominates and the winds whisper ancient secrets. But once visitors arrive, they are confronted with something even more profound, an entire stone forest that appears to be more than just a product of natural erosion. At the heart of the mystery lies the second and most captivating feature of Marcahuasi, the giant stone formations. Scattered across the plateau are immense rock structures that from certain angles and under specific lighting conditions reveal shapes uncannily similar to humans, animals, and mythological beings. One of the most famous formations is the Monument to Humanity, a colossal stone that appears to depict multiple human faces, some distinctly African, others resembling European or Asian profiles, all merged into one monumental sculpture that seems to gaze out into eternity. For many researchers and visitors, this single formation suggests that Marcahuasi might hold the key to understanding not just Peruvian prehistory, but the shared heritage of humanity itself. The faces in stone are not limited to humans. Among the enigmatic figures identified on the plateau are shapes resembling animals, lions, seals, condors, camels, and even species that are not native to South America. The presence of such imagery raises profound questions. If these forms were intentionally sculpted, how could ancient Andean peoples have known of animals they never encountered in their environment? Could it be that the figures represent mythological archetypes? Or do they point to contact with other cultures long before conventional history acknowledges such connections? Skeptics argue that these formations are simply products of pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar shapes in random natural patterns. According to this perspective, the wind, rain, and time carved the rocks, and it is only our minds that impose meaning upon them. Yet this explanation, while reasonable, struggles to account for the precision and variety of the shapes, as well as the way many of them align with astronomical directions or significant sightlines across the plateau. For believers, the hypothesis of pure chance fails to capture the overwhelming impression of intentionality that Marcahuasi inspires. Adding to the mystery, many of the stone figures seem to change appearance, depending on the time of day or the angle of the sun. At dawn or sunset, shadows reveal contours that are invisible at noon, making the rocks appear almost alive, as if they were guardians waiting to communicate when the moment is right. This dynamic quality has led some to suggest that Marcahuasi was designed as a kind of living observatory, where the interplay of light and stone encoded messages for future generations. Legends among local people reinforce the mystical aura of the site. Oral traditions speak of Marcahuasi as a sacred land, a place where ancient ancestors left their mark to guide humanity. Some stories describe the plateau as a stone library, a vast archive where the knowledge of a forgotten civilization was carved into rock to withstand the passage of time. This notion resonates strongly with the idea that the monument to humanity embodies not just one culture, but the shared essence of multiple civilizations, reminding us that humanity's origins may be far older and more interconnected than mainstream archaeology admits. The question of who could have created such works, if they are indeed human-made, remains unsolved. The Inca, who dominated the Andes in later centuries, left no clear evidence of having shaped Marcahuasi. Some researchers suggest that the stones may predate the Inca by thousands of years, pointing to the possibility of a lost civilization that flourished long before written history. In this sense, Marcahuasi joins the ranks of other great megalithic mysteries of the world, like Stonehenge in England or the statues of Easter Island. In the mid-20th century, the site gained global attention when Peruvian explorer Daniel Russo published his theories about Marcahuasi. He believed that the plateau preserved evidence of a prehistoric Masma civilization, a highly advanced culture that existed tens of thousands of years ago and transmitted knowledge through stone carvings. According to Russo, the monument to humanity was not an accident of erosion, but a deliberate message, a warning and a testament from an ancient people who sought to communicate across millennia. While mainstream archaeology largely dismisses Russo's conclusions, his work inspired generations of alternative researchers and spiritual seekers to visit the plateau, transforming Marcahuasi into a place of pilgrimage for those drawn to humanity's greatest mysteries. Beyond the statues, Marcahuasi has also been associated with paranormal phenomena. Visitors often report strange experiences, glowing lights in the sky, sudden shifts in temperature, or feelings of being watched. Some even claim encounters with UFOs or extraterrestrial beings. For this reason, Marcahuasi is sometimes described as one of the world's energy centers, comparable to places like Sedona in the United States or Mount Shasta in California. Whether one interprets these accounts as psychological effects of the high altitude or as genuine unexplained events, they add yet another layer of intrigue to the plateau. What makes Marcahuasi so compelling is not only the stones themselves, but the questions they raise. Are we witnessing the remnants of a lost civilization that deliberately carved messages into stone to endure through the ages? Are we projecting meaning onto natural rock shapes, fooled by our imagination, into seeing faces and animals where none exist? Or is the truth somewhere in between, a place where natural forms inspired ancient peoples to recognize sacred symbols and imbue them with cultural and spiritual significance? Even today, scientific studies have not resolved the enigma. Geological analyses confirm that the rocks are volcanic in origin, formed millions of years ago. Yet geology alone cannot explain why the formations look so deliberate, why so many seem to align with cosmological patterns, or why the site has been revered by local communities for generations. The mystery endures, resisting simple classification. Standing on the Marcahuasi Plateau, surrounded by its colossal stone guardians, one cannot help but feel a sense of awe. The thin air heightens perception. The silence amplifies thought, and the rocks seem to gaze back with the weight of centuries, whether natural or artificial accident or intention. Marcahuasi touches something profound within the human spirit, the desire to connect with the past, to seek meaning in the stones, and to wonder whether civilizations long before us left behind a message that we have yet to fully decipher. In this sense, Marcahuasi is more than a plateau. It is a mirror reflecting our longing for knowledge, our imagination, and our enduring fascination with the possibility that history is deeper and stranger than we dare to believe. And perhaps as the sun sets over the Andean peaks and the shadows transform the rocks once more, we may glimpse not only the faces of the past, but also a hint of our own future etched forever in stone. On a quiet hillside in Asuka, Japan, there rests a colossal enigma carved from living stone, known as Masuda no Iwafune, or the Stone. Ship of Masuda, it does not look like a temple, a tomb, or anything that fits neatly into history. Instead, this massive block of granite, stretching over 11 meters long and weighing hundreds of tons, appears almost like an ancient vessel stranded on land, its surface marked with deep, deliberate cuts that seem to whisper of a forgotten purpose. For centuries, scholars, archaeologists, and curious travelers have stood before it, asking the same unanswered question: why was it made, and what was it meant to do? If you were standing before the mysterious stone ship of Masuda, what would you believe its true purpose was? A forgotten observatory, a sacred ritual platform, or perhaps something entirely different that history has yet to reveal? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. To begin with, imagine the sheer size of this monument. Masuda no Iwafune is a gigantic granite block, estimated to weigh around 800 tons, measuring over 11 meters long, nearly 8 meters wide, and about 5 meters high. In the context of the Asuka period, when no mechanical tools, modern stone-cutting machines, or large-scale construction technologies existed, carving and shaping such a massive block was truly a marvel. It is difficult to imagine how the craftsmen of the time managed to accomplish this feat, or why they felt compelled to create such an extraordinary structure. One of the details that makes Masuda no Iwafune such a profound mystery is its unusual shape. This massive granite block has been carved into a form resembling a nearly perfect rectangular prism, leading many to compare it to an ancient ship stranded on the hillside. What particularly puzzles researchers is the presence of two parallel grooves cut deeply across its surface, crafted with a precision that seems almost impossible within the technological limits of the Asuka period. In addition, the stone bears several square and rectangular depressions, positioned in seemingly random spots, yet unmistakably the work of human hands. These features prove that Masuda no Iwafune is not a natural formation, but a deliberately shaped monument. The pressing question remains: what was its intended purpose, and why did its builders choose such a peculiar design? It is this enigma that makes the structure so captivating and fuels countless theories about its origin and function. And here lies the greatest enigma. What was the actual purpose of Masuda no Iwafune? To this day, even after centuries of study, the hypotheses proposed remain speculative, with no evidence strong enough to provide a definitive answer. One of the most discussed theories among scholars is that Masuda no Iwafune once served as an ancient astronomical observatory. The two parallel grooves carved deeply into the stone's surface may not have been decorative markings or the remains of unfinished work, but instead could have been used to track the movements of the sun, the moon, or certain stars at key times of the year, such as solstices and equinoxes. If this theory is correct, Masuda no Iwafune was not merely a massive inert block of granite, but in fact a primitive scientific instrument reflecting the Aska people's profound concern with the sky and the rhythms of the cosmos. Yet the hypothesis remains contentious. If it truly functioned as an observatory, why are there no traces of supporting structures around it, such as foundations or alignment markers? And why would ancient builders choose to carve a monolith weighing hundreds of tons instead of creating smaller, more portable devices? These unanswered questions are precisely what make the astronomical hypothesis both fascinating and deeply challenging. A common theory suggests that Masuda no Iwafune may have originally been intended as a stone tomb or burial chamber for the nobles or rulers of the Aska period. The colossal stone, meticulously carved, could well have symbolized authority and the desire for immortality. In many ancient cultures, the construction of massive stone monuments was closely tied to beliefs in the eternal survival of the soul after death. However, to this day, surveys have uncovered no traces of human remains, grave goods, or evidence of burial rituals. This raises a troubling question. If it was truly meant to be a tomb, why was it left unfinished, never completed, and seemingly never used? This absence of evidence makes the tomb hypothesis both compelling and yet full of unanswered mysteries. Some Japanese researchers believe Masuda no Iwafune may have been connected to Shinto or Buddhist rituals. During the Asuka period, Shinto and imported Buddhism were strongly interwoven. The stone may have served as an altar, a ceremonial platform, or a sacred marker in religious rites. Yet again, the lack of historical records and nearby artifacts prevents this idea from being proven. Another possibility is that Masuda no Iwafune was simply an unfinished project. Perhaps it was intended as part of an important construction, but for political, religious, or technical reasons, the work was abandoned midway. The grooves and cavities could merely be preliminary markings by stonemasons. But if that were the case, why would they begin with such a colossal block and carve it on such a scale if there was no clear purpose? Alongside academic interpretations, Masuda no Iwafune has also inspired a range of speculative theories. Some believe that this massive stone could be the remnant of a long-lost civilization, one that possessed construction techniques far beyond our current understanding. Others put forward an even bolder idea that it might be connected to extraterrestrial technology, pointing to its ship-like shape and the remarkably precise grooves that seem too advanced for the Asuka period. Although these claims lack scientific evidence, they continue to capture the imagination of the public, as the monument's inherent mystery leaves ample room for dramatic speculation. Whether astronomical, religious, funerary, or abandoned, all theories share one fact: there is no direct evidence to confirm the true purpose of Masuda no Iwafune. History's silence has turned this stone giant into a riddle, like a puzzle piece detached from Japan's ancient story, a piece that has never found its rightful place. Placed in a global context, Masuda no Iwafune recalls other megalithic enigmas such as the massive stones of Puma Punku in Bolivia, the Moai statues of Easter Island, or the precision-cut stones of Egypt. All raise the same question. Why did ancient people invest enormous effort in creating colossal stoneworks whose functions we still cannot explain? Even in a nation with detailed historical records like Japan, Masuda no Iwafune proves that hidden mysteries remain. Today, Masuda no Iwafune is not only a fascinating tourist attraction in Nara, but also a symbol of human curiosity and the desire to understand our past. It forces us to ask, were the Asuka period people merely skilled craftsmen, or did they possess special knowledge now forgotten? And why build such a massive and unusual structure without leaving behind any explanation. Perhaps the answer will never be found. Yet, it is precisely this uncertainty that gives Masuda no Iwafune its allure. Like a book missing its first and last pages, this colossal stone compels us to speculate, debate, and imagine. It is both a testament to the greatness of the past and a reminder that countless mysteries still lie beyond the reach of modern science. And so, Masuda no Iwafune remains on the Aska hillside, silent like a stone ship waiting for a convincing explanation, waiting for a chance discovery that might reveal its secret. Or perhaps it will remain forever as an eternal enigma, one of the most captivating legacies of ancient Japan. On the barren lands of the Golan Heights, Israel lies a mysterious monument that continues to puzzle archaeologists, historians, and astronomers alike. Locals call it by different names: Rujm el-Hiri in Arabic, meaning heap of the wild cat, and Gilgol Rephaim in Hebrew, the circle of the giants. The latter carries a more mythical tone connected to biblical legends about the Rephaim, a mysterious race of giants once believed to have lived in this land. Seen from above, Rujm el-Hiri appears like a giant geometric carving etched in stone. It consists of 5 concentric stone circles made up of tens of thousands of basalt rocks carefully stacked. The outermost ring measures about 150 meters in diameter, while the inner circles gradually shrink toward a central mound about 5 meters high. The entire monument is thought to have required over 40,000 tons of rock, with each stone weighing hundreds of kilograms to several tons, arranged without any mortar. What makes it even more astonishing is its age. It is estimated to have been built around 3000 to 2700 BCE, over 5,000 years ago, contemporary with, or possibly predating, the Egyptian pyramids. But unlike the pyramids widely accepted as tombs, the true function of Rujm el-Hiri remains unresolved, making it one of the greatest archaeological enigmas of the Middle East. So, what do you think Rujm el-Hiri was truly built for? Was it a sacred cemetery, an ancient astronomical observatory, or a ritual monument linked to the legend of giants? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. For decades, the greatest question surrounding Rujm el-Hiri has been, what was this massive stone monument truly built for? The enormous basalt blocks arranged into 5 concentric circles not only evoke awe in terms of engineering, but also inspire countless theories about its function. The first hypothesis proposed by many archaeologists is that the site once served as a ritual cemetery. Evidence for this lies in the central mound, where traces of burials have been found, though most were disturbed long ago. From this perspective, Rujm el-Hiri was constructed as a memorial to the dead, a sacred space for funerary rites. Yet the question remains, if it was only meant for burials, why create such an enormous and complex structure? A simple earthen mound would have sufficed, suggesting that the site held significance far beyond that of an ordinary cemetery. The second theory, often considered the most compelling, is that Rujm el-Hiri was an ancient astronomical observatory. Modern surveys reveal that many gaps and pathways between the stone circles align with the rising and setting of the sun during the solstices. This level of precision immediately brings to mind Stonehenge in England, a monument of similar age and astronomical function. If true, Rujm el-Hiri would demonstrate that the peoples of the Near East 5,000 years ago possessed extraordinary astronomical knowledge, enough to orient and arrange tens of thousands of stones according to cosmic cycles. This was not merely a physical construction, but also a gateway into a vast world view, one in which nature and the heavens were revered as divine forces. In addition, many scholars argue that Rujm el-Hiri could have been a religious and ceremonial center. In the beliefs of many ancient cultures, concentric circles symbolize the cosmos and eternity. Thus, the structure may have been designed as a place where humans sought connection with the gods, with the central mound serving as a giant altar. Ritual sacrifices or important ceremonies may well have been performed here, particularly during significant times of the year, such as the summer solstice, when the sun reached its highest point in the sky. Between astronomy and religion, there was clearly a close bond, and Rujm el-Hiri might stand as a vivid testament to that intersection. Other perspectives propose more practical explanations. Perhaps the monument was an early fortress or a community gathering place. The concentric rings of stone resemble enclosing walls, which could have offered temporary protection from danger or marked out sacred boundaries for a forbidden zone. Yet due to the absence of long-term habitation evidence or auxiliary structures, this hypothesis has not gained broad acceptance among researchers. Finally, one cannot overlook the role of mythology. In the Hebrew Bible, there are tales of the Rujm, a mysterious race of giants. The name Gilgal-Rephaim, meaning Circle of the Giants, comes from the belief that such a monumental construction was beyond the abilities of humans at the time. Many believed that only supernatural beings could have moved and arranged tens of thousands of massive stones in this way. Although lacking scientific evidence, the mythological interpretation has breathed cultural life into the monument, turning it into a symbolic site where history and legend intertwine. All of these theories open different doors of interpretation, yet leave countless gaps unanswered. Rujm el-Hiri, therefore, is not merely a pile of stones, but a mirror reflecting the imagination, spirituality, and knowledge of prehistoric humanity. And it is precisely the ambiguity of its true function that has made it one of the greatest archaeological mysteries of the Middle East. One of the reasons why Rujm el-Hiri remains such a great archaeological mystery is the lack of direct evidence to determine its true function. Unlike many other ancient monuments, it left behind no inscriptions, symbols, or carvings that clearly describe its purpose. The traces of burials and artifacts discovered there are extremely scarce and insufficient to clarify its original role. Moreover, over thousands of years, wind, rain, and time have damaged the structure, making analysis even more complicated. Modern archaeologists have attempted many methods, from geometric measurement studies of solar alignments and astronomical phenomena to satellite imaging, yet no definitive conclusion has been reached. This ambiguity suggests that Rujm el-Hiri may not have served a single function, but could simultaneously have been a cemetery, an astronomical observatory, and a religious ceremonial center. When discussed, Rujm el-Hiri is often compared with Stonehenge, England, and Göbekli Tepe, Turkey. All three are monumental megalithic sites built thousands of years ago, deeply tied to astronomy and ritual. Yet none has a definitive explanation. If Stonehenge symbolizes prehistoric Europe and Göbekli Tepe reshapes our understanding of civilization's origins, then Rujm el-Hiri stands as the great enigma of the Near East. Today, standing amidst its vast stone rings, one cannot escape the sense of awe and mystery. It feels as if the site whispers untold stories, secrets buried by time. Perhaps it is precisely this uncertainty that makes Rujm el-Hiri unique. Every theory, every perspective opens a different doorway into the worldview of ancient peoples. Was it a sacred cemetery, a monumental altar for the gods, or a solar observatory where our ancestors tracked the sun and stars? Or perhaps all of these were just fragments of a greater picture, one still hidden from us. Even now, Rujm el-Hiri rises on the Golan Heights as a silent challenge to human knowledge. More than a monument of stone, it remains a symbol of the eternal mysteries woven into the history of humankind. High on a windswept plateau in southern Armenia, there stands a circle of silent giants, over 200 basalt stones rising from the earth like sentinels of a forgotten age. This place is called Karahunge, or Zorat's Karer, and many have named it the Stonehenge of Armenia. But unlike its famous cousin in England, Karahunge remains shrouded in even deeper mystery. Some researchers believe it may be thousands of years older than Stonehenge itself, making it not just an echo of the past, but perhaps the earliest key to understanding humanity's connection to the stars. Here, where history and myth collide, the stones seem less like ruins and more like a coded message carved into the landscape, one we are still struggling to read. What do you think Karahunge was really built for, an ancient observatory, a sacred ritual site, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Karahunge consists of about 223 large dark basalt stones erected across the plateau. Many measure between 2 to 3 meters tall and weigh several tons. What draws particular attention is that many of these stones are pierced with circular holes around 5 to 6 centimeters in diameter, drilled with precision and clear intention. Upon closer inspection, these holes are not random. They align with celestial positions in the sky, such as the sun-moon, and certain constellations during specific times of the year. This detail has fueled intriguing theories about Karahunge's purpose, an enigma still unresolved. One of the most prominent and hotly debated theories about Karahunge is that it once served as an ancient astronomical observatory. The circular holes in the stones are believed to have allowed prehistoric people to track the movements of celestial bodies, such as determining the exact rising and setting points of the sun during the summer and winter solstices, or observing the motion of the Orion constellation, which held sacred significance in many ancient belief systems. If this theory is correct, Karahunge could be the oldest observatory in the world, dating back as far as 7,500 years. This would mean that Stone Age humans were far from primitive, as we often assume. Instead, they possessed sophisticated and precise astronomical knowledge, advanced enough to astonish modern scientists. Some researchers believe that Karahunge was not merely a technical construction, but may once have been a vast necropolis or a spiritual ceremonial center for ancient communities. In the surrounding area, traces of burial mounds and tombs have been discovered, suggesting that the site was deeply connected to beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife. If this theory is correct, then Karahunge was in fact a gateway linking humans to the supernatural realm, where rituals of sacrifice, prayers, or ancestral veneration were performed beneath a star-filled sky. The act of erecting hundreds of massive stones on a windswept plateau was not only a demonstration of collective strength, but may also have been a way for people to express reverence toward the cosmos and the supreme deities, affirming that they were part of the sacred order of the universe. Some other theories suggest that Karahunge may once have served as a military observation post or an environmental monitoring point. Situated on a wide and open plateau, the site allowed ancient people to easily survey the surrounding landscape in all directions. The stones may have been arranged as orientation markers, helping to detect approaching groups or enemies from afar, while also possibly marking significant seasonal cycles tied to agriculture. If this theory is correct, Karahunge was not only a practical tool that supported community survival, but also a symbol of unity and collective strength, a place where people could both observe and assert their control over nature and external threats. What makes Karahunge especially captivating is the multi-layered nature of its purpose. To this day, no conclusive evidence proves that the site served only a single function. Instead, many researchers believe that Karahunge may have simultaneously been an astronomical observatory, a sacred ritual ground, and even an ancient necropolis. For ancient communities, the boundaries between science, spirituality, and daily life were not separated as they are today, but rather interwoven into a unified whole. Thus, each stone was not merely a tool for observing the sky, but also carried sacred symbolic meaning, reflecting the eternal cycle of life-death and humanity's faith in the cosmos. Karahunge did not exist in isolation throughout history, but rather seems to be part of a network of mysterious megalithic structures spread across the world. When placed alongside Stonehenge in England, Nabta Playa in Egypt, or Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, striking similarities become evident. All are massive stone complexes associated with astronomical and ritual functions. This raises a profound question: did there once exist a shared system of knowledge among ancient humanity, developed simultaneously across distant lands and later lost over the millennia? If so, Karahunge may represent a crucial piece of that larger puzzle, a testament showing that prehistoric humans were capable of observing, recording, and expressing the laws of the cosmos in ways that go far beyond what we can imagine today. Today, Karahunge still stands tall on the Armenian plateau beneath a star-filled sky as a silent witness of the past. The stones have remained motionless for thousands of years, yet through their arrangement and mysterious circular holes, they seem to whisper an ancient language that modern humans have yet to decipher. Could it be the language of the cosmos, a celestial map, or perhaps prayers sent to the gods? For now, all remain as hypotheses. It is precisely this silence and mystery that have turned Karahunge into an endless riddle, a message left unfinished, one that humanity continues to patiently seek to understand. Karahunge is therefore not merely an archaeological site, but also a reminder of the limits of our present knowledge. Its very existence suggests that our ancestors, often labeled as primitive, may have possessed knowledge and abilities far beyond what we usually imagine. Each standing stone is not just an inert block of matter, but rather a mirror reflecting the intellect, beliefs, and aspirations of ancient humanity. Karahunge still endures today as a living legacy, urging us to continually ask questions and search for answers to the secrets still hidden within history. The mystery of Karahunge's purpose may endure for centuries more, yet it is precisely this uncertainty that gives the site its enduring allure. If every question had an answer, Karahunge would be just another archaeological ruin. But because it resists explanation, Karahunge continues to fascinate scientists, travelers, and mystery seekers around the globe. In the treasury of mysterious tales from the ancient world, there is one legend that has kept both historians and modern scientists debating endlessly: Roman flexible glass, also known in Latin as vitrum flexile, flexible glass. According to the few surviving records from Roman times, this material was unlike any glass we know today. Instead of being brittle and shattering into sharp fragments, vitrum flexile was said to be able to deform, withstand impacts, and even be restored to its original shape after being bent or dented. If the story were true, then vitrum flexile could be considered a groundbreaking invention ahead of its time, so revolutionary it was dangerous. What makes it extraordinary lies not only in its unusual properties, but also in its tragic fate. The technology to create it completely disappeared, buried along with the secrets of the Roman Empire. This loss is what turned vitrum flexile into one of the most fascinating enigmas in the history of materials science. So what do you think about the mystery of Roman flexible glass? Was it truly an advanced technology buried in time, or just a legendary tale woven to warn about the power and fear of the Roman emperor? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The origin of the Roman flexible glass legend comes from surviving ancient texts, most notably in the work of Petronius Satyricon and later references by Pliny the Elder and other historians. The story tells that during the reign of Emperor Tiberius Caesar, 14 to 37 AD, a craftsman managed to create a most unusual kind of glass. This craftsman presented his invention to the emperor. To demonstrate its unique properties, he deliberately threw a glass vessel onto the hard floor. Instead of shattering into countless sharp pieces like normal glass, the vessel only dented slightly. Then, according to the account, the craftsman took out a small hammer, tapped the dented part, and the vessel returned to its original shape. Such a description was utterly implausible, given the ancient understanding of materials. Ordinary glass, even at the height of Roman glassmaking, was brittle, fragile, and had no ability to deform plastically like metal. Yet the story insisted otherwise. Emperor Tiberius's reaction to this strange invention turned it into a story marked by tragedy. According to ancient accounts, instead of rewarding the craftsman for his remarkable creativity, Tiberius ordered his execution. The reason stemmed from his fear that if this flexible glass were to spread widely, it would threaten the very foundation of the Roman economy. At that time, gold and silver were not only symbols of wealth and status, but also the pillars of the monetary system and political power. A cheap type of glass, yet stronger than precious metals, could easily replace them in the making of utensils and luxury objects. If that happened, the value of gold and silver would collapse, leading to social unrest and undermining the authority of the ruling class. Out of fear of losing control, Tiberius chose to extinguish this knowledge the moment it appeared, and with the death of the craftsman, the secret of vitrum flexile vanished from history forever. The story of vitrum flexile transformed it from a strange anecdote into a legend of lost technology. It raises a series of questions that humanity has yet to answer. Did that craftsman truly create an extraordinary type of glass, one with flexibility and durability far beyond the knowledge of his time, or was it merely a tale embellished to lend weight to historical accounts? If it did exist, what was the formula for making vitrum flexile? Could it have been a secret mixture of glass and metal, or even an early form of metallic glass, a material that modern science only discovered in the 20th century? Or was the entire story simply a literary metaphor reflecting the tyranny and fear of Roman rulers in the face of changes they could not control? What makes it even more mysterious is that to this day, no archaeological evidence has ever confirmed the existence of this special glass. No fragments, no artifacts, only fragile words in ancient texts and an enduring fascination in the human imagination. When modern materials scientists revisit the story of vitrum flexile, they often cannot hide their astonishment, since what is described sounds remarkably similar to a groundbreaking 20th century discovery, metallic glass. This is a type of alloy with an amorphous structure like glass, yet it possesses entirely different properties: high elasticity, great strength, resistance to shattering, and the ability to deform without cracking. Fascinatingly, these characteristics almost perfectly match the ancient descriptions of the Romans' flexible glass. However, producing metallic glass requires rapid cooling techniques and advanced laboratory conditions, technologies thought to be far beyond the capabilities of ancient Rome. This raises an intriguing hypothesis. Could it be that the craftsman, either by accident or through a now-lost secret, had created a primitive version of metallic glass? Perhaps it was a random phenomenon during the melting process, producing a strange material that even he did not know how to reproduce. Though such a hypothesis sparks captivating possibilities, it remains pure speculation, for to this day, no scientific or archaeological evidence has confirmed the actual existence of Vitrum flexile. Vitrum flexile is not just a scientific curiosity, it is also a cultural symbol. It reflects the eternal conflict between innovation and authority, between invention and fear. The craftsman embodied human creativity and progress, while Tiberius symbolized the ruling class's fear of change that might disrupt social order. The very loss of Vitrum flexile carved into history the lesson that sometimes the greatest inventions can be buried forever by greed, fear, or short-sightedness. It stands as one of the most vivid examples of lost technology, raising the question of how many ancient knowledge systems may have vanished without a trace beyond our reach. Today, Roman flexible glass exists only as a legend. It may have been a real invention, proof that Roman civilization once touched knowledge far beyond its time. Or it may have been a myth, a cautionary tale of absolute political control over technology. Yet precisely because it lacks a definitive answer, Vitrum flexile remains compelling. It fuels curiosity, urging science to ask, were there materials, inventions, and technologies that truly existed in the past but were lost forever, leaving only fragmented echoes between myth and truth? With all its ambiguity and mystery, Roman flexible glass stands as a vivid reminder of humanity's desire to uncover the past, a past where secrets of technology may have once been born, shone brightly, and then disappeared without a trace. Thus, Vitrum flexile is not merely a story about glass, but a symbol of human knowledge that once flared into brilliance only to be buried. And that is precisely the charm that keeps this mystery alive for thousands of years. When speaking of the architectural wonders of ancient Greece, most people immediately think of the Parthenon, the majestic columned structures atop the Acropolis, or the colossal marble statues of mythological gods. Yet there exists another monument that is less frequently mentioned in popular culture, but has astonished scientists, engineers, architects, and artists for centuries: the theater of Epidaurus. Nestled within the lush valleys of the Peloponnese, this theater is not only a symbol of dramatic art, but also an unresolved scientific mystery, an almost perfect acoustic system created more than 200-300 years ago. So what do you think? Does the perfect acoustics of the theater of Epidaurus come from the advanced scientific calculations of the ancient Greeks, or was it simply a lucky coincidence of architecture and materials? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What made the theater of Epidaurus a legend since antiquity is the acoustic experience it offered its audience. With a capacity of about 14,000 people, the structure was built in a semicircular form with limestone seats arranged in perfect arcs facing the central stage. The marvel lies in the fact that no matter where one sits, whether in the low rows close to the actors or the highest tiers far above the audience, can still clearly hear every spoken line, every musical note, and even the seemingly faintest sounds, such as the tearing of paper or the rolling of a small pebble. Modern experiments have repeatedly proven that this is not a fabricated tale, but a real phenomenon thanks to its perfect sound transmission. Even today, many modern theaters, despite being equipped with advanced amplification systems, cannot fully match this level of acoustic clarity. This superiority has made Epidaurus not only a symbol of theatrical art, but also a profound scientific mystery. What baffles scientists and architects the most is the design of Epidaurus. Unlike many structures built through coincidence or by taking advantage of terrain, this theater's structure appears to have been deliberately and precisely calculated. The seats, carved from limestone, not only provide strength, but also function as a natural acoustic filter. Studies reveal that limestone absorbs low frequencies, which usually produce background noise or unpleasant echoes, while reflecting and amplifying high frequencies, exactly the range of the human voice. Thus, sound from the stage travels not only far, but also with clarity and precision. This means the ancient Greeks had either intentionally or accidentally chosen the perfect material to transform the theater into an acoustic masterpiece. Beyond the material, the shape and slope of the theater are crucial. With its flawless semicircular design, each row of seats rises at a steady gradient, allowing sound waves to fan out evenly without scattering. Many scholars argue that the architects followed principles of the golden ratio in Greek art to achieve an optimal balance between beauty and function. Yet others insist that the mathematical and physical knowledge required to reach such precision must have far exceeded what mainstream history credits them with. Another fascinating hypothesis is that the architects of Epidaurus intuitively understood how sound waves travel in open space. Instead of building enclosed theaters, like in modern times, they opened their structure to nature, making use of the valley's slope and orienting the theater toward areas of consistent wind flow. As a result, sound was not distorted by swirling winds or random scattering, but carried naturally across the audience. Incorporating nature as part of architecture not only demonstrates profound knowledge, but also reflects the Greek cultural philosophy of harmony between humanity and the cosmos. Modern scientific studies have made many attempts to explain the acoustic mystery of the theater of Epidaurus, but to this day, no explanation has been considered completely convincing. In 2007, a research team from the Georgia Institute of Technology published findings suggesting that the limestone seating itself was the crucial factor. According to their study, limestone acts as a natural acoustic filter capable of absorbing low frequencies, which usually generate background noise from the audience and the environment, while reflecting and amplifying higher frequencies, specifically those of the human voice. As a result, lines spoken on stage could be carried with clarity and precision all the way to the furthest seats. This has been regarded as one of the most reasonable scientific explanations so far. However, the academic debate is far from settled. Some scholars argue that relying on material alone is insufficient, since beyond limestone, other factors such as the semicircular geometry, the slope of the tiers, the theater's orientation, and even the climate and wind patterns of the valley all contributed to its acoustic perfection. From this perspective, the marvel of Epidaurus does not come from a single element, but rather from a sophisticated combination of multiple factors, producing an effect that even modern technology has yet to fully replicate. One of the questions that makes the theater of Epidaurus so mysterious is whether the ancient Greeks truly possessed advanced knowledge of acoustics, or if its perfection was merely the result of a fortunate coincidence. To this day, no ancient documents survive that describe in detail how the theater was designed and constructed, leaving us with two opposing hypotheses. The first suggests that the Greeks may have developed a form of early acoustic science, refined enough to calculate the slope materials and geometry of the theater with precision, but that this body of knowledge was lost over centuries of war, conquest, and upheaval. If this is true, then Epidaurus stands as evidence that humanity may once have reached levels of understanding far beyond what mainstream history acknowledges. On the other hand, the second hypothesis proposes that the theater's perfection was nothing more than a remarkable accident. The builders used limestone simply because it was available, constructed the semicircular shape because it was common at the time and unintentionally created an acoustic effect that surpassed imagination. Whichever view one takes, the fact remains that the results went far beyond expectations, challenging even modern engineering, making Epidaurus both a masterpiece of architecture and an enduring scientific enigma. Today, the theatre of Epidaurus still stands nearly intact and continues to host performances of classical plays. Modern audiences, just like those 23 centuries ago, can still marvel at the clarity of actors' voices without any amplification system. This enduring experience elevates Epidaurus beyond a mere archaeological relic, turning it into a living testament to the extraordinary ingenuity of ancient humans. The acoustics of Epidaurus Theatre is a mystery woven between art and science. Its perfect sound leaves us questioning, did our ancestors understand far more about nature than we give them credit for? Did there once exist a body of acoustic knowledge buried in history? Or was it nothing more than a magnificent accident, a serendipitous union of art material and nature? Whatever the answer, Epidaurus reminds us that the mysteries of the past may hold vital lessons for the present and the future. And perhaps it is this very mystery that ensures the theatre's immortality in human memory. Among the countless legacies left behind by the Maya civilization, one of the most captivating is not a towering pyramid or an enigmatic codex, but rather a color, a shade of blue so vivid and so enduring that it has baffled scientists, historians, and archaeologists alike for decades. This remarkable pigment, known simply as Maya blue, is more than a color. It is a testimony to the ingenuity, spirituality, and hidden scientific knowledge of an ancient people whose understanding of materials science appears to have been centuries ahead of their time. What makes Maya blue stand out in history is not only its aesthetic beauty, but also its resilience. While most pigments used in the ancient world, from the ochres of cave paintings to the mineral-based reds and greens of other civilizations, have faded, discolored, or simply vanished under centuries of exposure, Maya blue has endured. Murals painted more than 500 years ago remain as vibrant as if they had been created yesterday, untouched by the relentless march of time, weather, and even chemical attack. But beyond the brilliance of its hue lies a mystery far deeper. How did the Maya craft a pigment so stable? And why has modern science struggled to replicate their methods with complete precision? What do you think about this mystery? Was the formula for creating Maya blue a coincidence discovered during rituals, or was it actually a sophisticated scientific knowledge now lost to time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. First discovered in archaeological contexts across Mesoamerica, Maya blue decorates murals, pottery codices, and ritual artifacts. Its radiant turquoise blue hue, which symbolizes both the vast sky and sacred waters, was not only a decorative choice, but a sacred one. This color was deeply tied to the Maya worldview, linking humans to the divine. Archaeological evidence shows that the pigment was used in sacred rituals, particularly in offerings and even human sacrifices, where victims and objects were covered in this mysterious blue before being cast into the sacred cenote at Chichen Itza. Yet despite being buried in tropical soils, submerged in water, or exposed to centuries of sunlight, the color remained unyielding. Unlike many organic dyes, which break down easily, Maya blue resisted erosion. Even modern laboratory acids and alkalis, substances that would typically strip color, failed to destroy it. This unique stability remains one of its defining features, and a clue that its composition was not a simple accident, but a carefully guarded formula. Here lies the heart of the mystery. Maya blue is not a naturally occurring pigment. It is a synthetic compound, painstakingly manufactured by the Maya people. Through chemical analysis, modern scientists have determined that it is composed of two key ingredients, indigo, an organic dye extracted from the leaves of the indigofera plant, and palygorskite, a fibrous clay mineral found in Yucatan. On the surface, this combination may not seem extraordinary. After all, indigo was widely used across the ancient world. However, what makes Maya blue unique is the fusion of the organic and inorganic components in such a way that the dye molecules are locked within the crystalline channels of the clay. This bonding grants the pigment its extraordinary resilience. But how exactly did the Maya achieve this? Modern researchers have attempted to recreate Maya blue in laboratories by mixing indigo with palygorskite and heating the mixture. It was discovered that when exposed to moderate heat, around 150 to 200 Gs de Ke, the indigo molecules enter the pores of the palygorskite and bind tightly, producing the stable compound. Yet the simplicity of this modern explanation only raises more questions. How could the Maya, without advanced chemistry, precise furnaces, or modern scientific tools, have discovered such a method? Was it the result of accidental experimentation, or did they possess a deeper knowledge of natural materials and their interactions? One of the most perplexing aspects of Maya blue is that while we now know its ingredients, the exact process of its production remains uncertain. Different attempts at replication produce slightly different shades and levels of durability, suggesting that the Maya's original formula contained nuances that have not been fully uncovered. Some scholars suggest that the pigment may have been created in ritual contexts during the burning of incense made from copal resin and other materials. The heat of the fire, combined with the presence of indigo and clay, might have led to the fusion. Others believe the Maya may have deliberately heated clay and dye together in ceramic vessels designed to withstand high temperatures, carefully controlling the process to achieve the brilliant turquoise tone. What complicates the picture further is that not all Maya blue is identical. Variations in shade composition and texture have been observed, implying that multiple workshops or regional traditions may have existed, each with its own guarded recipe. This diversity reinforces the idea that Maya blue was not a casual discovery, but a specialized craft tied to cultural and spiritual significance. The association of Maya blue with rituals adds another layer to the mystery. At Chichen Itza's sacred cenote, numerous offerings, from ceramics to human remains, were discovered coated in this pigment. The blue, it is believed, symbolized the element of water, the sky, and the divine realm of Chak, the rain god. Covering sacrifices in this hue was an act of devotion, linking the offerings directly to the gods. This ritual significance suggests that the process of making Maya blue may not have been a purely technical exercise, but also a spiritual act carried out in sacred spaces by initiated individuals. The blending of clay and dye might have been seen not only as chemistry, but as alchemy, a transformation of earthly materials into a divine substance. If true, the secrecy surrounding the process would have been intentional, ensuring that the pigment remained exclusive to priestly rituals and sacred art. In the 20th century, when scientists first began analyzing Maya blue, they were stunned by its resilience. Using X-ray diffraction, infrared spectroscopy, and electron microscopy, they confirmed the intercalation of indigo molecules within the clay structure. Yet despite these advancements, recreating the exact process of the Maya has proven elusive. Attempts to replicate the pigment often result in variations that lack the same vibrancy or stability as the ancient samples. This has led to speculation that the Maya may have employed additional now-lost techniques, perhaps the use of specific plant extracts, resins, or ceremonial methods that influence the outcome. The alchemy of heat environment and ritual may have created conditions impossible to replicate outside their cultural context. The enigma of Maya blue challenges modern assumptions about the limits of ancient technology. It forces us to consider that civilizations such as the Maya possessed not only architectural and astronomical genius, but also a profound empirical understanding of materials. While we may pride ourselves on modern chemistry, the inability to perfectly replicate their formula speaks volumes about the depth of their lost knowledge. To this day, scholars debate whether the discovery of Maya blue was the result of chance, a byproduct of ritual fires, or a deliberate and carefully refined practice. Regardless of its origin, the pigment stands as a reminder that the Maya were not merely passive observers of the natural world. They were active experimenters, innovators, and guardians of secrets that continue to challenge us. The Maya blue pigment is more than a color preserved in murals and artifacts. It is a bridge between worlds, between the organic and inorganic, between art and science, between humanity and the divine. Its brilliance lies not only in its hue, but in its enduring mystery. While we can name its components and approximate its creation, the true secret of Maya blue remains hidden in the shadows of time, a guarded treasure of an ancient people whose wisdom still outpaces modern understanding. In the end, Maya blue is not simply a pigment. It is a question still unanswered, painted across the walls of history in the brightest shade of turquoise the world has ever known. When people think of the Maya civilization, they often imagine majestic stepped pyramids, intricate hieroglyphic carvings, and astonishing astronomical systems. Yet one of the most hauntingly beautiful monuments, deeply tied to Maya spirituality, is the Cenote sacrificial caves, sacred sinkholes, seen as gateways to the afterlife. Among them, the Cenote Sagrado at Chichen Itza is the most famous, often called the Well of Sacrifice. Here, archaeologists have uncovered countless human remains, artifacts, and traces of ancient rituals. What makes this place particularly enigmatic is the series of haunting questions that remain unanswered. What do you think about the Cenote sacrificial caves? Do you believe these sacrifices truly connected the Maya with their gods, or were they more about social and political power? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. On the Yucatan Peninsula, the limestone geology gave rise to thousands of cenotes, natural sinkholes filled with crystal-clear fresh water and connected to vast underground cave systems. For the ancient Maya, cenotes were not only vital sources of water for survival, but also sacred gateways leading to Xibalba, the underworld where gods and spirits dwelled. This belief transformed certain cenotes into sacred spaces where people carried out sacrificial rituals, sending direct messages to the rain, god Chak, and other deities of fertility. Maya texts and legends reveal that whether it was precious artifacts or human lives once cast into a cenote, they were regarded as desperate prayers, expressions of reverence toward the divine, as well as the community's anxieties over survival. Thus, the Cenote sacrificial caves were far more than natural wonders. They became the spiritual heart of Maya life, a place where life and death converged, and where the human world touched the realm of the gods. Since the early 20th century, excavations and underwater explorations at the Cenote sacrificial caves have led to shocking discoveries. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of hundreds of victims, including men, women, and children. What is particularly chilling is that many skeletons bear signs of severe trauma, broken bones, fatal wounds, or evidence of mistreatment before the bodies were cast into the water. This proves that most victims did not fall into the cenote by accident, but were deliberately chosen as sacrificial offerings in rituals. In addition, hundreds of valuable artifacts were also found, such as finely crafted pottery, gold rings, turquoise ornaments, and even imported goods from distant regions. These objects not only reflect the scale and wealth of Maya society, but also demonstrate that the cenote was both a sacred religious site and vivid evidence of the civilization's vast trade networks. One of the most haunting discoveries made by archaeologists and researchers while studying the Cenote sacrificial caves is the large number of children's remains found at the bottom. This raises difficult questions. Why were children so often chosen as subjects of sacrificial rituals? A common theory suggests that the Maya believed children's souls were purer than those of adults, and thus more pleasing to the rain, god Chak, and other deities. The tears of a child before being cast into the waters may have been seen as symbols of rain, the most essential source of life in the arid Yucatan. However, scientists have observed that there were periods when the number of child sacrifices sharply increased, suggesting that climate factors, particularly prolonged drought, may have played a significant role. But was that the only cause, or were there deeper social and political motives hidden behind these rituals? To this day, the answer remains shrouded in mystery. Hidden behind the circular pools open to the sky, the Cenote sacrificial caves are in fact connected to a vast underground cave network stretching for dozens of kilometers beneath the earth. Much of this system remains unexplored, and every diving expedition brings new surprises, from strangely shaped stalactites to artifacts buried for thousands of years. What continues to puzzle researchers is how far the Maya themselves ventured into this underworld. Did they simply cast offerings from the surface, or did they once perform secret rituals deep within the darkness of the flooded caves? If the latter is true, then beneath the Yucatan, there may still lie countless artifacts and archaeological evidence, concealed in silence, guarding mysteries that humanity has yet to unravel. Although archaeological discoveries have provided many important insights, the Cenote sacrificial caves remain one of the greatest mysteries without a definitive answer. The first question revolves around the selection of victims who were chosen to be cast into the cenote. Some theories suggest they were mainly war captives or slaves, while others propose that sometimes even members of the community, including children, were selected for their perceived purity or for specific ritual reasons. Beyond that, the true purpose of these sacrificial ceremonies is still debated. Were they solely intended to bring rain and fertile harvests, or did they also serve political and social functions, reinforcing the power of the ruling elite and maintaining spiritual control over the people? Another aspect concerns belief in their effectiveness. Did the Maya truly believe that human sacrifice could bring favorable weather? Or was it simply part of a broader cosmological system in which fear, reverence, and authority were intertwined? Finally, there remains the question of what still lies hidden beneath the dark waters. Could there be texts, artifacts, or traces yet undiscovered that might change how we understand the Maya spiritual world? Until such questions are answered, the Cenote sacrificial caves will remain a symbol of a past that has never truly closed. Today, cenotes are not only archaeological treasures, but also popular destinations for tourists and researchers. Divers, archaeologists, and anthropologists continue their work, yet with every new discovery, more questions seem to arise. than answers. The Cenote sacrificial caves stand as evidence of the intersection between nature and faith beauty, and horror science and myth. These water-filled caves remind us that there are aspects of Maya civilization modern humanity may never fully comprehend. The Cenote sacrificial caves are not merely archaeological sites. They are gateways into the spiritual world of the Maya. The evidence of sacrifices, the luxury artifacts, and the remains of children fuel many theories but leave equally large gaps of uncertainty. Have we only glimpsed the surface of a much deeper belief system? Are there still secrets lying in the unexplored caves, and most importantly, will modern humans ever truly grasp what the Maya believed as they offered lives into the cenote's depths? Until these questions are answered, the cenote's sacrificial caves will remain one of humanity's greatest ancient mysteries, a place both beautiful and haunting, inspiring awe, while forcing us to reflect on the eternal bond between life, death, and faith in the afterlife. Thus, the cenote's sacrificial caves are not just sacred wells, but symbols of eternal mystery. And it is precisely this lack of definitive answers that makes them one of the most fascinating subjects, both for scientific study and for the human imagination. Imagine a land once hailed as a paradise by the Sumerians, a place where the sun was said to rise, where no sickness or death existed, and where ships laden with treasures from distant lands converged. This was Dilmun, the mysterious trade empire of the Persian Gulf, flourishing more than 4,000 years ago. Neither a conquering military power nor a vast territorial kingdom, Dilmun rose to greatness by mastering the seas and controlling the lifeblood of Bronze Age commerce. Today, its legacy lingers only in scattered Sumerian texts, colossal fields of ancient burial mounds, and ruins buried beneath the sands of Bahrain, fragments that whisper of a civilization once at the very heart of global trade, yet destined to fade into silence. If Dilmun truly was a paradise of trade and a hub of the ancient world, what do you think caused such a glorious empire to vanish almost without a trace? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Dilmun held a unique position in the Gulf, acting as a natural bridge between three great civilizations: Mesopotamia to the north, the Indus Valley to the east, and the Arabian Peninsula to the south. Thanks to this advantage, during the 3rd millennium BCE, it became an essential stop along maritime routes, a place every ship had to call at to exchange goods. Vessels from India carried precious woods, shimmering pearls, rare gemstones, and especially copper from Oman, all gathered at Dilmun, before continuing on to Mesopotamia, a land hungry for resources to forge tools and weapons. In the eyes of the Sumerians, Dilmun was more than a harbor. It was a true paradise of trade, where wealth from every corner converged, creating prosperity and power far beyond the limits of its small territory. What made Dilmun even more remarkable was how it appeared in Sumerian texts. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Dilmun was described as a sacred land, the place where the sun rises, where there was no illness, no death, and everything was pure. The Sumerians called Dilmun the land of the living, which has led many modern scholars to connect it with the concept of a primordial paradise. The fusion of its geographic reality, a true trade hub, and its spiritual image, a divine realm, made Dilmun a unique civilization. One of the clearest pieces of evidence for Dilmun's strength and prosperity is the vast complex of stone burial mounds spread across modern-day Bahrain. Archaeologists have uncovered more than 170,000 mounds, an astonishing number far exceeding expectations for such a small community. Many of these tombs feature complex structures with inner chambers, corridors, and abundant grave goods, such as pottery, jewelry, and even weapons reflecting social stratification and the immense wealth of the merchant and noble classes. Yet this monumental scale raises a major mystery. Why would a land with limited territory and a seemingly modest population require so many graves? Some scholars suggest that Dilmun once served as a regional burial hub where neighboring communities entrusted their dead. Others argue that Dilmun's population was far denser than previously imagined, linked to its role as an international transit port. Whatever the truth, this colossal necropolis remains an unsolved enigma, underscoring Dilmun's extraordinary place in human history. Unlike many other ancient empires, Dilmun was not renowned for military conquests or territorial expansion, but for its ability to control maritime trade. It existed and flourished thanks to its role as the middleman in trade between three great civilizations. However, its model, which relied almost entirely on commerce, also made Dilmun vulnerable to disruptions. When a sea route changed, when a partner civilization weakened, or when a rival port arose, this fragile balance could easily collapse. When it comes to Dilmun, the most intriguing aspect is perhaps its baffling disappearance. Around the end of the 2nd millennium BCE to the beginning of the 1st millennium BCE, Dilmun gradually lost its position as a major trade hub and then vanished from historical records, leaving behind a vast gap in the flow of history. Strangely, there is no inscription, no document that clearly describes this collapse, forcing scholars to rely on scattered clues and archaeological evidence to construct theories. Many believe that changes in maritime routes were the main cause. New ports emerged. Trade journeys shifted, and Dilmun was no longer the obligatory stop it once had been. In addition, traces of climate change in the Gulf suggest prolonged droughts, irregular sea level fluctuations, and the weakening of canal systems, the lifeline of agriculture and transport, all of which destabilized an economy heavily dependent on natural resources. Another theory emphasizes power struggles. Dilmun's strategic location made it a tempting prize for larger empires, and it may have been quietly absorbed without leaving much trace. Some scholars even question whether epidemics or demographic crises played a role, with the massive necropolis discovered possibly reflecting a biological catastrophe that once swept through. Yet to this day, no archaeological evidence is strong enough to confirm a single explanation. It is precisely this silence of history, this lack of data and evidence, that has made the fall of Dilmun one of the greatest enigmas of the Gulf, a place where an empire that once held the center of the ancient world simply vanished, almost without a trace. What is strange is that although Dilmun once held a crucial role in the global network of the Bronze Age, it disappeared almost without a trace, unlike other civilizations whose decline left obvious historical markers such as Mesopotamia or Egypt. This silence of history has created one of the Gulf's greatest mysteries. Today, Dilmun's legacy survives mainly through its burial mounds, archaeological sites in Bahrain, and scattered references in Sumerian, Akkadian, and Assyrian texts. Yet these remnants are only enough to confirm that Dilmun was once an indispensable link in human history, not enough to fully reconstruct its story. It was at once a political economic entity and a spiritual symbol in the Sumerian imagination. Perhaps this dual nature, half real, half mythical, is what has made Dilmun such an attractive subject for archaeologists and enthusiasts of lost civilizations alike. Looking at Dilmun's history, we learn a profound lesson: empires that failed to build sustainable foundations from within, relying instead on intermediary positions, are always fragile in the face of external changes. At the same time, the mysterious silence of its decline, with no clear records, no decisive evidence, has turned Dilmun into an Atlantis of the Gulf, where fact and legend intertwine. To this day, archaeologists continue to excavate, researchers carefully cross-examine ancient texts, and history enthusiasts keep asking, how exactly did Dilmun disappear? Will we ever uncover the truth, or will it forever remain a mystery buried beneath the sands and seas of the Middle East? The Dilmun trade empire, with its brilliant rise and inexplicable fall, is proof that some chapters of human history will always remain blurred. And perhaps it is precisely this blurriness that makes us keep searching. Beneath the quiet waters off the small Greek island of Dokos lies a secret that rewrites our understanding of the ancient world. In the late 20th century, divers stumbled upon a vast scatter of pottery resting on the seabed, the remains of what would later be identified as the oldest known shipwreck in the world. No wooden hull. Survives only the ghostly cargo it once carried, frozen in time for more than 4,000 years. To archaeologists, this was not just another wreck. It was a window into the dawn of seafaring trade and human ambition. To this day, the Dokos shipwreck stands as one of maritime archaeology's most haunting enigmas, a silent witness to a journey lost forever in the depths of history. What do you think really happened to the Dokos shipwreck more than 4,000 years ago? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. What makes the Dokos shipwreck so remarkable lies in its extremely ancient age. Through analysis and comparison of pottery styles, archaeologists determined that the ship sank around 2700–2200 BCE, more than 4,000 years ago, during the early Bronze Age, a period when humans had just begun expanding trade and cultural exchange by sea. This means that Dokos is not only the oldest shipwreck in Greece, but also possibly the oldest shipwreck ever discovered in the world. For an underwater site of such antiquity to survive until today is extraordinarily rare, since saltwater ocean currents and time usually destroy all organic structures, especially wood. For this reason, the survival of the Dokos shipwreck is not only astonishing, but also raises profound questions about the seafaring capabilities of prehistoric humans. Yet the Dokos shipwreck holds a fascinating paradox. No remains of the hull were found. This is understandable, as the hull at that time was likely made entirely of wood. After millennia, in exposed seabed conditions without mud to cover and protect it, the entire structure disintegrated. The only thing left behind was the cargo, a massive number of artifacts, mostly pottery and household items, scattered across the rocky seabed. This cargo is what gives the shipwreck its special archaeological value. One of the most striking aspects of the Dokos shipwreck is the enormous quantity of artifacts discovered at the site. Archaeologists uncovered around 500–600 ceramic vessels of various shapes, including amphorae used to transport liquids, craters for mixing wine, and hydriae for carrying water. Alongside these were countless broken shards, plates, cups, and even stone tools, all reflecting the daily life and exchange practices of people in the Bronze Age. Particularly noteworthy is the diversity in craftsmanship, which suggests that these items did not come from a single workshop, but may have originated from multiple production centers across the Aegean. This indicates that the ship may have functioned as a vital link in an early maritime trade network, providing evidence that complex trading routes already existed millennia before Greek civilization reached its classical golden age. One of the elements that makes the Dokos shipwreck so mysterious lies in the unanswered questions about the nature of its cargo and its origins. It is clear that the ship carried a large quantity of ceramics for trade, but what exactly was stored inside the amphorae remains unknown. They might once have contained wine, olive oil, or even grain, the essential commodities of the Bronze Age economy, yet with no surviving organic traces, scholars can only speculate. The mystery deepens further. When considering the origin of the pottery itself, some theories suggest it came from the nearby Argolid region, others point to the Cyclades, and still others argue that Crete, the early center of the Minoan civilization, was the source. Each hypothesis paints a different picture of how humans first built their maritime trade routes in the dawn of history. The biggest question surrounding the Dokos shipwreck is, why did the ship sink? This is the mystery that continues to puzzle archaeologists and researchers, as there is no direct evidence pointing to a specific cause. At the seabed site, no traces of fire explosions or combat damage were found, which rules out the possibility that the ship was attacked. However, the location where it sank is notorious for its sharp, rocky reefs, making the most widely accepted theory that the vessel accidentally struck the rocks during its voyage. The wooden hull was destroyed, and it quickly went under. Other scholars suggest the ship may have encountered a violent storm or capsized due to the limitations of early shipbuilding technology, which may not have been safe enough for long-distance journeys. Each theory carries some plausibility, yet the absence of concrete evidence means this enigma will remain forever buried beneath the depths of the sea. Here, the Dokos shipwreck is not merely an archaeological discovery, but also a gateway to a new perspective on human history. It proves that even in very early times, humans dared to venture beyond the continent, building complex trade routes across the seas. This challenges many previous assumptions about the development of seafaring. If the Dokos ship was active 4,000 years ago, then how many other ships once existed but were never found? Could this be only the tip of the iceberg in a vast maritime trade system long forgotten by history? The unanswered mysteries of the Dokos shipwreck also reveal something captivating. Human beings always yearn to understand their past, but the deeper we dig, the more unanswered questions we encounter. The wreck itself is proof we know it once existed. We know what cargo it carried, yet we may never know exactly what happened during its fateful voyage. This is its greatest allure, making the Dokos shipwreck a symbol of secrets yet to be unveiled. Today, artifacts from Dokos are preserved and displayed in museums, serving as invaluable sources for research. Every amphora, every broken shard of pottery is a fragment of history, helping us imagine the ancient voyages across the Aegean Sea. But above all, the Dokos shipwreck reminds us that history is not always clear. Sometimes it leaves us only scattered clues, forcing later generations to fill in the blanks with science and imagination. The Dokos shipwreck can be seen as both an invaluable archaeological treasure and an eternal enigma. It carries within it stories that we can only envision, and its lack of definitive answers is precisely what makes it one of the greatest mysteries of human civilization. Thus, the Dokos shipwreck is not simply an ancient shipwreck. It is evidence of early maritime development, a relic proving the complex trade connections of the Bronze Age, and above all, a reminder that history still holds many gaps that cannot yet be filled. The mystery of this ship will continue to challenge future generations, those who long to uncover the truth hidden beneath the deep sea. When speaking of the Indus Valley Civilization, one of the most brilliant ancient civilizations in the world, most people immediately think of famous cities like Harappa or Mohenjo-daro. Yet alongside these great centers, Kalibangan, a site located in Rajasthan, India, preserves a truly remarkable discovery, a system of fire altars built on a scale and with a sophistication unseen elsewhere. Unlike other Indus sites, which are usually associated with urban planning wells, granaries, or drainage systems, Kalibangan offers us a rare glimpse into the spiritual and religious life of ancient inhabitants. For this reason, it stands as a distinctive highlight, revealing mysterious stories that archaeologists have not yet been able to conclusively explain. Do you think the fire altars at Kalibangan were used for community-wide rituals, or were they reserved only for an elite group of priests and leaders? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. What makes Kalibangan exceptional is the presence of numerous fire altars constructed with order and symmetry. These altars were square, rectangular, or even semicircular in shape, aligned neatly in rows. Inside, archaeologists discovered ash charcoal and animal bones, clear evidence that fire rituals once took place here. The altars were made of baked bricks, the common material of the Indus people, but their arrangement was entirely different from ordinary civic constructions. They were not built for daily life, but carried ceremonial and religious significance. When observing the Kalibangan fire altars, many scholars suggest that they were used for fire worship rituals, a form of devotion deeply important in ancient India. The discovery of ash and animal bones reinforced the idea that inhabitants performed sacrificial ceremonies here. Interestingly, in the Rig Veda, a foundational text of Hinduism, fire Agni plays the role of mediator between humans and the gods. The Yajna fire sacrifice rituals of the later Vedic age share striking similarities with what was unearthed at Kalibangan. Yet because of the temporal gap between these periods, the question of whether Kalibangan was truly a precursor to Vedic religion remains debated. One striking feature of Kalibangan lies in the deliberate arrangement of its fire altars. They were not constructed randomly, but neatly aligned in rows, giving the impression of a carefully planned ritual complex. Remarkably, some altars were circular or semicircular, evoking symbols of the sun, the moon, and astronomical cycles. This has led many scholars to hypothesize that the Indus people were not merely performing religious rites, but also integrating early astronomical knowledge into their spiritual practices. In such a worldview, fire, sunlight, and the natural rhythms of the cosmos may have merged together, reflecting a belief system that was both primitive in form and profoundly philosophical in depth. The greatest mystery of the Kalibangan fire altars does not lie in their physical structure or the remnants of ash, but in the countless unanswered questions that have turned this site into one of the most debated archaeological discoveries in human history. Why is it that only Kalibangan possesses such a large and meticulously arranged system of fire altars, while Harappa or Mohenjo-Daro, much larger urban centers, do not? Could it be that Kalibangan once served as a special ceremonial hub home to a distinct religious community, or perhaps even functioned as a sacred sanctuary for the entire Indus civilization? If this hypothesis is correct, its unique status would reflect a social structure far more complex than what we have imagined. Another pressing question concerns who actually participated in these rituals. Were they community-wide events where everyone offered tribute to the gods, or were they secret ceremonies reserved for the elite priests and leaders holding both spiritual and political power? If they were indeed the privilege of the upper class, then the Kalibangan fire altars simultaneously reveal a distinct social stratification, previously uncertain among scholars. Furthermore, the traces of ash and animal bones suggest that sacrificial rituals took place here. But an equally chilling question remains unresolved: did the Indus people ever practice human sacrifice? To date, archaeological evidence is insufficient to confirm this, yet the absence of decipherable written records prevents us from dismissing the possibility outright. If human sacrifice did occur, it would drastically reshape how we understand the spiritual and moral foundations of the Indus civilization. Alongside this, the role of fire in the Indus worldview remains an unfilled gap. For the later Vedic people, fire was the bridge between humans and the gods, the medium that carried prayers and offerings to higher realms. But for the Indus, without clear evidence, we can only speculate: did fire symbolize life rebirth, or was it merely a tool of sacrifice meant to secure divine favor? And finally, the most profound question: why did this tradition vanish after the decline of the Indus civilization? No comparable system of fire altars appears in later historical periods. Was the entire tradition buried forever, or was it transformed and absorbed into other religious practices, such as the Vedic yajna? It is precisely this chain of questions that has cast a thick fog over the Kalibangan fire altars. Every new theory only sparks more heated debates, and even today, no explanation has been universally accepted. Thus, Kalibangan is not just an archaeological site, but a historical riddle, reminding us that humanity's understanding of the past still holds many gaps waiting to be filled. One of the most hotly debated points is the connection between the Kalibangan fire altars and Vedic rituals. Some scholars argue that this is clear evidence of cultural continuity. Indus spirituality evolved into Vedic practice, with fire god Agni at the center. Others insist the similarities are coincidental and warn against over-interpretation. If Kalibangan was an outlier within the Indus world, it may simply reflect a localized belief system unrelated to later Vedic traditions. Either way, Kalibangan acts as a disruptive puzzle piece in history. It could be the missing cultural bridge, or just a branch that faded away. The Kalibangan fire altars are not just archaeological remains. They are a historical riddle, challenging human intellect. They force scholars to ask, do we truly understand the religion, society, and worldview of the Indus people? For decades, all attempts to decipher the Indus script have failed, making the search for answers even harder. Each fire altar at Kalibangan resembles a locked message, and only when humanity unlocks the ancient language will we know their true meaning. Today, when we look at the Kalibangan fire altars, we do not just see bricks, ash, or animal bones. We see humanity's eternal fascination with unanswered questions. These fire altars may once have been places where humans conversed with the divine, or tools for rituals now lost to time. Yet precisely because no certain answers exist, the Kalibangan fire altars retain their mysterious power, urging us to keep searching. Perhaps the secret of Kalibangan will forever remain like a flame, burning in humanity's imagination, a flame that never goes out, reminding us that history still holds countless dark corners awaiting illumination. When speaking of the Indus civilization, people often recall cities like Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa, with their scientific urban planning, sophisticated drainage systems, and durable brick architecture. Yet in a lesser-known site, Lothal, located in Gujarat, India, archaeologists uncovered a structure that still amazes historians and scientists today, the Lothal dockyard, regarded as the world's oldest artificial dockyard. This structure not only demonstrates the remarkable advancement of the Indus people in seafaring and international trade, but also raises countless questions about their engineering, hydraulics, and architectural knowledge more than 4,000 years ago. If the Lothal dockyard truly was the world's first artificial harbor, how do you think the Indus people managed to control the tides and construct such a complex structure more than 4,000 years ago? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. According to archaeological studies, the Lothal dockyard was built around 2400–1900 BCE, more than 4,000 years ago. The structure is a rectangular basin, nearly 218 meters long and about 37 meters wide, surrounded by tall, sturdy, baked brick walls. Notably, the dockyard lay next to an ancient channel, allowing ships to berth, anchor, and participate in trade activities. Compared to other civilizations of the same period, Few possessed such a large-scale, advanced artificial port system. For this reason, the Lothal dockyard is considered the earliest evidence of dockyard construction technology in human history. When speaking of the Lothal dockyard, what astonishes archaeologists and historians most is not merely its ancient age, but the sophisticated construction techniques employed by the people of the Indus civilization more than 4,000 years ago. This was not a casual structure built for daily needs. It was a carefully planned system reflecting advanced knowledge of structural engineering, hydraulics, and tidal cycles. First, the surrounding dockyard walls were constructed with baked bricks, a material familiar across the Indus civilization. What sets Lothal apart, however, is the arrangement and treatment of these bricks. They were tightly fitted, likely reinforced with some form of water-resistant binding agent, creating a structure durable against water erosion. Such craftsmanship allowed the dockyard to endure for millennia despite climatic, hydrological, and geological changes in Gujarat. Most remarkable of all, the Lothal dockyard was not simply a giant reservoir. It was designed to regulate water levels in accordance with tidal movements, ensuring ships could dock and depart safely. Archaeologists uncovered traces of channels, drains, and sluice gates, proving that the Indus people possessed a deep understanding of water flow, erosion, and tidal patterns. Such scientific awareness is usually attributed to port civilizations that emerged thousands of years later. A common theory suggests that the dockyard had at least two main gates, one for ships to enter and exit, and another to drain or stabilize water levels. During high tide, the first gate would be opened to let water flow, in enabling navigation. At low tide, the regulating gate maintained sufficient water levels to prevent ships from grounding. This operational model closely resembles that of modern ports, yet it was in use more than 4 millennia ago. Further studies indicate that the dockyard's design accounted for multiple factors: the slope of the basin floor, rapid drainage capability, and pressure management against the walls. This suggests the structure was not built purely by trial and error, but rather through generational empirical observation, combined with creativity and logical thinking, hallmarks of prehistoric engineers. These details have sparked vigorous debate among scholars. Some insist it represents the world's earliest artificial seaport, undeniable proof of the Indus people's maritime brilliance. Others, however, remain skeptical, proposing that it might have been merely a large reservoir or irrigation facility supporting agriculture, since direct evidence of ships in the area is scarce. Yet when weighed against the foreign artifacts and international trade traces discovered at Lothal, the interpretation of a commercial seaport appears far more convincing. From any perspective, the dockyard's sophisticated engineering remains a profound enigma. It not only demonstrates the Indus civilization's mastery over nature and the seas, but also proves that humanity had achieved astonishing scientific and technical heights much earlier than commonly believed. This is what makes the Lothal dockyard a site of both archaeological significance and enduring mystery, a vivid testament that our distant ancestors may have been far more intelligent and advanced than we once imagined. Beyond engineering, the Lothal dockyard highlighted the city's importance in ancient maritime trade networks. Archaeological records show that from Lothal, the Indus people traded with distant civilizations such as Mesopotamia, Persia, and Egypt. Exports included pearls, ivory beads, precious stones, and timber, while imports featured precious metals, semi-precious stones, and colored glass. This proves that Lothal was not only a port city, but also an international economic hub, where land and sea trade routes intersected. Beyond its role as a major seaport, Lothal also stood out as a leading center of craftsmanship and industry within the Indus civilization. Archaeologists have uncovered numerous workshops for the production of beads jewelry made from semi-precious stones and colored glass, showing that the inhabitants possessed an exceptionally refined level of artistry. Beads crafted from carnelian or agate were polished and drilled with almost perfect symmetry, so precise that even modern technology struggles to replicate them flawlessly. In addition, evidence of metallurgy pottery and stone tool making demonstrates that Lothal was not only a hub of trade, but also a cradle of artisanal innovation, enriching both the prosperity and international standing of this ancient port city. Although archaeological evidence suggests that Lothal was once a bustling maritime trade center, the true purpose of the Lothal dockyard remains a great mystery. Some scholars argue that it was indeed the first artificial seaport in human history, designed to serve as a hub for anchorage and international commerce. However, others lean toward the theory that the structure might have been nothing more than a massive water reservoir for irrigation, or perhaps even a multifunctional facility that supported both trade and the daily needs of the community. The absence of conclusive traces of ships, combined with dramatic geological and hydrological changes in the Gujarat region over thousands of years, only deepens the puzzle. Furthermore, the decline of Lothal and the entire Indus civilization around 1900 BCE raises even more difficult questions. Was it the result of climate change, devastating floods shifting river courses, or the collapse of the international trade networks that once sustained its prosperity? To this day, all of these remain hypotheses, and the Lothal dockyard continues to stand as an unsolved enigma in human history. Regardless of the debates, Lothal dockyard is recognized by UNESCO and archaeologists as an invaluable heritage site. It proves the Indus people's extraordinary achievements in architecture, hydraulics, seafaring, and global trade. It also reminds us that human history is not a linear progression. There were moments when ancient civilizations reached heights far beyond what we might expect. Lothal Dockyard, India, is not merely an archaeological ruin. It is a symbol of human ingenuity and the ancient drive to master the seas. Its sophisticated construction with tidal control and water management systems remains an unsolved mystery. The blend of scientific brilliance, practical function, and historical enigma makes Lothal Dockyard one of the most fascinating monuments in human history, a shining testament to the greatness of the Indus civilization. Beneath the shimmering blue waters of Lake Tahoe, a famed lake straddling California and Nevada, lies more than just breathtaking natural beauty. Hidden in its depths is a mystery that has baffled both science and legend. At nearly 500 meters deep, in a realm where sunlight barely reaches, divers have reported seeing massive stone walls aligned in straight rows as if shaped by human hands. These sightings have sparked a bold hypothesis. Could an ancient civilization once have thrived here, only to vanish when the lake formed and swallowed everything whole? Lake Tahoe, long celebrated as the sapphire of the Sierra Nevada, may in fact be a gateway to a forgotten chapter of human history. And the question still echoes: are the walls beneath the lake a trick of nature or evidence of a sunken city lost tens of thousands of years ago? So what do you think? Are the walls beneath Lake Tahoe the work of nature or the remnants of a civilization long gone? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Many divers and explorers have claimed to have seen strange structures at the bottom of Lake Tahoe, long stone walls aligned in straight rows with a neatness that seems almost unbelievable. Some sections stretch for dozens of meters, composed of large blocks stacked carefully, as if deliberately arranged in stark contrast to the randomness usually found in nature. This raises a difficult question. Are these simply the result of geological activity fractures and shifts in rock layers over tens of thousands of years? Or are they truly the remnants left behind by prehistoric humans who once built structures here before the lake was filled with water? It is precisely this ambiguity that makes the mystery of the Lake Tahoe underwater walls all the more captivating. According to many geological studies, tens of thousands of years ago, the area now known as Lake Tahoe may once have been nothing more than a dry valley or a low basin with small rivers flowing through it. When the glaciers melted combined with tectonic activity that lifted underground water sources, Lake Tahoe gradually transformed into the vast and deep lake we see today. This opens up an intriguing hypothesis. If during the period before the lake was formed, this was once dry land, then it is entirely possible that humans or a primitive community once lived here, hunting, gathering, and even building stone structures. As the water levels rose, the entire settlement was submerged, leaving behind walls and stone formations at the bottom of the lake, silent evidence of a past that humanity may have forgotten. The Washoe people, indigenous inhabitants who have long lived in the area, tell many oral stories about sacred lands and constructions that vanished beneath the waters of the lake. Some legends even describe ancient villages swallowed by natural disasters. What's fascinating is that in many cultures worldwide, from Egypt and Greece to Central America, stories of sunken cities and vanished civilizations appear repeatedly. This similarity makes many believe that Lake Tahoe may be hiding an Atlantis of America. Several groups of private divers have dared to venture deep into the bottom of Lake Tahoe and carried out unofficial surveys, bringing back reports that drew the attention of researchers. They claimed to have seen large stone blocks arranged in rows, forming walls that seemed deliberate, with some areas resembling foundations or even stair-like structures. Strangely, many of the slabs appeared to have sharp, square edges, a shape rarely produced naturally in a lake environment. However, due to the lack of scientific evidence and the absence of any official excavation, these findings are still regarded as speculation. Notably, to this day, no archaeological institute or university has conducted a large-scale study using sonar or ROV technology to verify them. This very gap in research has made the mystery of the Lake Tahoe underwater walls all the more haunting and irresistibly captivating. The hypothesis of a lost ancient civilization submerged beneath Lake Tahoe is perhaps the most fascinating aspect of this entire mystery, for it suggests the possibility of reshaping our understanding of human history in the Americas. According to this view, before Lake Tahoe took on its vast modern form, the area may once have been dry land where a prehistoric community thrived. They might have developed rudimentary building techniques, constructing defensive walls, ritual sites, or even the foundations of small villages. When glacial melt or geological shifts caused water levels to rise, the entire settlement was swallowed, leaving behind scattered stone structures on the lake bed, what we now call the Lake Tahoe underwater walls. What makes this hypothesis particularly compelling is its potential impact. If proven true, it could rewrite the entire story of ancient settlement in North America. To this day, most scholars believe that organized societies in the Americas only appeared a few thousand years ago, such as the Olmec, the Maya, or later native cultures. But if a truly ancient civilization once existed and then vanished beneath Lake Tahoe, it would mean that human history on this continent must be pushed back tens of thousands of years, opening an entirely new and astonishing chapter of our past that remains unexplored. When approaching the phenomenon of the Lake Tahoe underwater walls, geologists often take a more cautious stance, suggesting that these walls may simply be the natural result of geomorphic processes unfolding over tens of thousands of years. According to them, rock layers on the lakebed could have fractured and shifted along tectonic fault lines, combined with water pressure, glacial melting, and long-term weathering, thereby creating formations that give the impression of deliberate human arrangement. However, it is noteworthy that no official scientific study has yet been published to either confirm or refute these claims. This gap in research has turned the story of the underwater walls of Lake Tahoe into a gray area in scientific knowledge, one that stirs curiosity while simultaneously posing a challenge to modern researchers. Lake Tahoe becomes even more mysterious because beyond the underwater walls, it is also tied to a series of inexplicable stories. For decades, the lake has been notorious for strange disappearances of tourists and boats alike, where every trace seems to vanish without a single clue. Adding to this are persistent rumors of a bottomless pit, fueled by its nearly 500-meter depth, which leads many to believe the lake hides underwater caves connected to other systems. Numerous tales also speak of shipwrecks or bodies that have never been recovered, thickening the dark veil draped over its blue waters. All these elements intertwine, creating an eerie allure and making the hypothesis of a lost world beneath Lake Tahoe feel more vivid and haunting in the human imagination. If an ancient civilization truly lies beneath Lake Tahoe, it would be one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the century, on par with Machu Picchu or lost cities in Egypt. It would not only change regional history, but also raise a larger question: how many civilizations have been submerged and erased from humanity's memory? The Lake Tahoe underwater walls may be nothing more than a product of nature, or they may be evidence of a vanished culture. The silence from the lake's depths is like a mirror reflecting humanity's endless curiosity about the past. Until a comprehensive survey using modern technology is conducted, the hypothesis of a lost civilization beneath Lake Tahoe will remain one of America's greatest mysteries. When people mention Crescent City, a small coastal town in California, they often think of the devastating tsunamis in recorded history. The town lies near the Cascadia Fault Zone, one of the most dangerous seismic areas in the world. But beyond these modern disasters, the waters off Crescent City conceal an ancient enigma, a submerged forest where massive fossilized stumps still stand silently on the ocean floor. This discovery not only carries scientific value in the study of climate change and geology, but also stirs bold theories about ancient catastrophes and even the possibility of a civilization forever lost beneath the waves. What do you think about the Crescent City submerged forest? Do you believe it's simply a natural result of rising seas, or could it be evidence of an ancient catastrophe that may have even erased a forgotten civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective. Beneath the thick layers of silt and sand off Crescent City, divers discovered massive tree stumps still intact, standing in neat rows as if they continued to guard a forest long vanished. Remarkably, these were not decayed logs randomly swept away by the waves, but the clear remains of a once thriving woodland that had grown on dry land. Radiocarbon dating results indicate they are thousands of years old, most likely dating back to the end of the Ice Age, when Earth's climate was dramatically shifting toward a warmer era. The fact that these stumps now lie deep beneath the sea raises a profound question: what force caused an entire forest to sink into the ocean depths? Could this be the direct result of dramatic geological and climatic upheavals, events powerful enough to completely reshape the ancient California coastline? Around 10,000, 12,000 years ago, as the Ice Age came to an end, massive glaciers began to melt, releasing enormous amounts of water into the oceans and causing global sea levels to rise rapidly. Many coastal regions disappeared forever, and what is now Crescent City may have been among them. If this theory is correct, the submerged forest beneath the sea stands as a living relic of Earth's turning point when the planet shifted from an icy world into a warmer era. However, the simple rise of sea levels alone cannot fully explain why the tree stumps remain standing upright, barely eroded or swept away. This suggests that beyond climate change, there must have been a sudden geological event, such as large-scale land subsidence or a powerful earthquake that dragged the entire forest below sea level. Afterwards, it was quickly buried under layers of silt and sand, preserving it in remarkable condition until today. Crescent City lies in the Cascadia subduction zone, where the Juan de Fuca plate slips beneath the North American plate. In the past, colossal earthquakes have struck here, producing tsunamis that traveled as far as Japan. Scientists believe that one or more megathrust earthquakes may have caused the coastal land to sink, dragging the entire forest below sea level in a matter of moments. The fact that the stumps remain in place suggests they were not slowly eroded by storms or currents, but rather entombed almost instantly. This serves as compelling evidence for the theory of an ancient catastrophe, one that could have profoundly affected communities living along California's coast at that time. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Crescent City submerged forest is the question of whether humans once lived there before the disaster struck. Archaeological evidence shows that people had settled along the Pacific Northwest coast at least 13,000 years ago, which coincides with the period when this forest may still have existed on dry land. If this theory is correct, it is entirely possible that primitive communities lived around the area, building shelters, foraging, hunting, and perhaps even leaving traces of early social activity. When a massive earthquake or colossal tsunami suddenly struck, the entire region could have been swallowed within hours, erasing every trace of them. This leads to a bold hypothesis: could early proto-civilizations along the Pacific coast have been submerged and vanished without a trace, with the Crescent City submerged forest being just a small fragment of the larger picture of what humanity has lost under the relentless power of nature? The Crescent City submerged forest is not the only case that sparks mystery about drowned woodlands. In the Gulf of Mexico, scientists discovered a fossilized forest dating back as far as 50,000 years beneath the seabed, with wood that still carried a resin scent when brought up. In the North Sea, the land of Doggerland, once a bridge between Britain and continental Europe, vanished about 8,000 years ago due to rising seas, wiping out many prehistoric communities. These examples suggest that the Crescent City submerged forest may be just one fragment of a larger chain of ancient lands and ecosystems that once thrived before being swept away. If evidence of human activity has been found in those other places, then it is entirely possible that the waters of Crescent City also once sheltered primitive communities. This raises a profound question: how many early civilizations have been erased, lost to oblivion, still unknown to us today? Despite extensive research, the Crescent City submerged forest still holds many unanswered questions. Scientists have yet to determine the exact moment when this forest was engulfed. Did it happen thousands of years ago, at the end of the Ice Age, or during a later period? The true cause is also debated. Some argue it was the result of a massive earthquake. Others lean toward the theory of a sudden tsunami, or perhaps simply the global rise in sea levels. Furthermore, the absence of clear evidence of human presence only deepens the mystery. Could traces still lie hidden beneath the layers of silt and sand? All of this makes the Crescent City submerged forest an open case file of both natural and human history, urging scientists to continue their quest for discovery. Whether viewed through geology, biology, or archaeology, the sunken forest serves as a reminder that humans and civilizations are always fragile before nature's power. An earthquake, a tsunami, or a shift in sea levels can wipe away entire landscapes along with the memories tied to them. Perhaps Crescent City's submerged forest is simply an ancient woodland drowned by the ocean. But it could also be a silent witness to a catastrophe that erased a community of early humans, leaving behind nothing but quiet stumps beneath the waves as a timeless warning. The Crescent City submerged forest is not only a rare natural phenomenon, but also a gateway into countless unresolved mysteries. From theories of post-Ice Age flooding, to massive earthquakes and tsunamis, to the possibility of a vanished primitive civilization, the site remains a haunting landmark in both natural and human history. Each stump beneath the sea is like a whisper from the past, reminding us that what is land today may be gone beneath the waves tomorrow. And in the murky waters off Crescent City, perhaps secrets still lie hidden about life, death, and the disappearance of an age long forgotten. Imagine stumbling upon the remains of a human so small they barely reached your waist, yet ancient tools scattered around them reveal a mind capable of creativity and survival. This is not the plot of a fantasy novel, but a real chapter of human history. In 2003, deep within Liang Bua Cave on the Indonesian island of Flores, scientists unearthed Homo floresiensis, a species unlike anything the world had ever seen. Nicknamed the hobbits for their tiny stature, these beings shook the foundations of anthropology. How could such small humans with brains the size of chimpanzees craft sophisticated tools, hunt giant animals, and survive alongside our own species? And perhaps the most haunting question of all, where did they come from? And why did they vanish? What do you think about the mystery of the origins and disappearance of the hobbits on Flores Island? Were they a completely new branch of humanity, or just shrunken descendants of Homo erectus? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. In 2003, an international team of scientists excavating Liang Bua Cave uncovered a nearly complete skeleton of an adult female. She stood only about 1 meter tall, weighed less than 30 kilograms, and her skull had a cranial capacity of just 400 cc, far smaller than that of modern humans, average 350 cc. Immediately, she was nicknamed the Hobbit for her resemblance to the fictional characters in J.R.R. Tolkien's novels. But unlike fantasy, these were real beings who lived on Flores tens of thousands of years ago. The shocking part was that despite having a brain as small as that of a chimpanzee, the sophisticated stone tools and evidence of hunting found alongside them revealed that Homo floresiensis possessed a level of cognition and skill far beyond what one would expect. At first, many believed that Homo floresiensis must have been an ancient species that went extinct millions of years ago, but modern dating methods revealed that they survived into a much more recent era, about 100,000 tons, 50,000 years ago. This means that when Homo sapiens, our direct ancestors, were already spreading across Asia and Africa, an entirely different human species was still surviving on an isolated Indonesian island. This raises a profound question. Did Homo sapiens and Homo floresiensis ever meet, interact, or even compete with each other? And if so, what were the consequences? Among all the questions surrounding Homo floresiensis, none has sparked as much debate and curiosity as the mystery of their origins. Even more than 2 decades after the discovery of these tiny skeletons in Liang Bua Cave, scientists still cannot reach a consensus. Where exactly did Homo floresiensis come from? And who were they in the complex tapestry of human evolution? Three major hypotheses have been proposed, each supported by compelling evidence, yet each riddled with contradictions that resist resolution. The first and most widely accepted hypothesis suggests that Homo floresiensis were descendants of Homo erectus, the upright humans who once thrived across Asia millions of years ago. When a small group of Homo erectus drifted to and became isolated on Flores, they were forced to adapt to an environment with scarce resources, limited food, and restricted living space. Over tens of thousands of years, they shrank in body size, a well-documented evolutionary process seen in many island animals known as island dwarfism. This explains why Homo floresiensis stood only about 1 meter tall and had a chimpanzee-sized skull. Yet the sophistication of their stone tools, along with signs of hunting and fire use, runs counter to logical expectation. How could a species with such a reduced brain maintain such complex intelligence? This question remains the biggest weakness of the shrunken erectus hypothesis, preventing it from being universally accepted. The second hypothesis is bolder. Homo floresiensis did not descend from Homo erectus at all, but from an even more ancient human species, such as Homo habilis, the so-called handyman of Africa, about 2 million years ago. If true, this would overturn many assumptions about the migratory capabilities of early humans. Could a small group of Homo habilis have left Africa, traversed immense and perilous distances, and survived in isolation on Flores for hundreds of thousands of years? Such a scenario implies that our distant ancestors possessed far greater survival skills, tool-making abilities, and even seafaring capacity than we previously imagined. However, no fossil evidence has yet been found in Asia to confirm such an extraordinary journey, leaving this hypothesis as a captivating but unproven speculation. The third hypothesis is even more controversial, that Homo floresiensis was a completely independent species, not descended from either erectus or habilis. If proven, this would be clear evidence that human evolution was not a straight line, as often portrayed, but rather a massive tree with countless branches. Some branches grew tall and thrived, others diverged and withered. In that vision, Homo floresiensis was a unique branch, small, enigmatic, coexisting with us for a time, but ultimately disappearing without leaving a clear explanation. It is precisely this ambiguity between hypotheses that makes the origins of Homo floresiensis one of modern anthropology's greatest unsolved puzzles. None of the theories is entirely convincing. The first is undermined by their advanced intellect relative to their small brains. The second raises daunting questions about transoceanic migration by primitive humans. And the third, though fascinating, lacks direct archaeological evidence. And so more than 20 years on, the most fundamental question remains: who were they and how did they come to be on Flores Island? Whatever their origins, Homo floresiensis demonstrated remarkable survival skills. They crafted sharp stone tools, likely controlled fire, and hunted animals many times their size, such as dwarf stegodon elephants and giant birds. This leaves scientists puzzled. How could such a small-bodied species with a tiny brain organize hunts and endure in such a demanding environment? Around 50,000 years ago, Homo floresiensis disappeared from the archaeological record, leaving behind a mysterious gap that scientists still debate today. Some hypotheses suggest that a natural disaster such as a volcanic eruption or climate change wiped out the already limited environment of Flores Island, making it impossible for these tiny humans to survive. Others argue that disease or intense competition with Homo sapiens migrants who were taller, more skilled, and greater in number pushed them to the brink of extinction, perhaps even leading to their extermination by modern humans. Interestingly, in the local folklore of Flores, there are still tales of the Ibugogo, small hairy beings who lived in caves and were said to steal food. Many researchers believe these legends may represent an ancient cultural memory reflecting coexistence or conflict between Homo sapiens and Homo floresiensis, preserved through oral tradition across generations. Homo floresiensis forces scientists to rethink a long-held assumption that intelligence is proportional to brain size. With a brain only 1/3 the size of ours, they still crafted tools, used fire, and adapted to complex environments. This suggests that intelligence is not determined solely by volume, but also by brain structure and how it functions. Today, Homo floresiensis remains an unsolved riddle. They may stand as proof of the astonishing diversity of the human lineage, that we were never alone, but once shared the world with many other human species, each with its own story. The discovery of Indonesia's hobbits not only expands scientific understanding, but also reminds us that human history is not a straight march from primitive to modern, but a tangled map filled with detours and dead ends. And on that map, Homo floresiensis is a giant question mark challenging every effort to uncover the true origins of humanity itself. When speaking of the luxury, eccentricity, and mystery of the Roman Empire, people often think of gilded palaces, bloody arenas, or infamous emperors known for their cruelty. Yet hidden beneath the small Lake Nemi, not far from Rome, once lay two monumental constructions symbolizing the fusion of sophisticated engineering and the arrogance of power, the Nemi ships. These were two gigantic vessels said to have been built by Emperor Caligula in the 1st century AD, with dimensions so immense and structures so complex that even today they continue to baffle archaeologists, engineers, and historians alike. What makes the Nemi ships extraordinary is not only their sheer size, more than 70 meters long and nearly 20 meters wide, but also their timeless technical details, which seemed to foreshadow the achievements of modern naval engineering thousands of years later. While most Roman ships were designed for commerce or war, the Nemi ships resembled luxurious floating palaces decorated with marble bronze statues, vaulted roofs, and above all, equipped with advanced mechanical and engineering systems never before seen. This alone has made them one of the greatest enigmas in the history of ancient construction techniques. How advanced do you think Roman engineering truly was during Caligula's time? Were details like the metal rudders, water systems, and mechanical anchors on the Nemi ships simply innovations of that particular era, or are they evidence that ancient technology was far more advanced than we currently understand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. From the moment the Nemi ships were salvaged in the 1930s, archaeologists and engineers were left in awe. They were not simply enormous wooden structures pieced together to float on water, but rather the result of an unprecedented fusion of mechanics, hydraulics, architecture, and decorative art. Every detail from the hull construction to the smallest surviving artifacts demonstrated a level of technical mastery that far surpassed conventional assumptions about the capabilities of the ancient Romans. The first astonishing feature was the rudder system. While most Roman ships of the era still relied on oars or simple wooden side rudders, the Nemi ships were equipped with gigantic metal rudders fixed at the stern and functioning in a way remarkably similar to modern seafaring vessels. For a civilization that existed nearly 2,000 years ago, the presence of such a mechanism was an unimaginable leap forward, forcing many scholars today to question, have we underestimated Roman engineering? Or did Caligula truly drive bold experiments far ahead of his time? Beyond this archaeological evidence revealed the presence of a water distribution system with bronze piping alongside fragments of lead pipes intricately connected. This suggests that the Nemi ships were once outfitted with an internal plumbing system, possibly to supply water for daily use or to serve mysterious religious rituals. At a time when installing water systems was still a challenge, even for land-based constructions, their appearance aboard floating vessels is undeniable proof of Rome's ambition to push technological boundaries. The hull construction was itself a masterpiece. Craftsmen employed multiple types of wood treated with bitumen for waterproofing, a technique more commonly used in underwater structures and reinforced with bronze nails. This combination not only ensured durability, but also protected the hull from decay in a freshwater environment. Analysis of the surviving fragments revealed joints executed with incredible precision, with planks interlocked both horizontally and vertically to create a resilient bond. Such methods demanded both deep knowledge of materials and the refined skill of master craftsmen. Another discovery that amazed researchers was evidence of a mechanical anchoring system. Bronze and iron fragments, along with pulley-like structures, indicate that the ships may have been equipped with a winch-operated anchor system, a concept similar to those used on modern ships. If this theory is accurate, it proves that the Romans not only understood how to stabilize their vessels, but also devised mechanical solutions to enhance that stability. This reinforces the idea that the Nemi ships were designed primarily to remain steady on the lake's surface rather than to travel across the seas. Beyond their engineering marvels, decorative findings aboard the ships revealed unprecedented luxury. Fragments of multicolored marble, finely crafted ceramics, bronze statues, and carved wooden ornaments proved that the decks had been transformed into spaces resembling floating palaces. Some records even claim that the ships contained stone columns and vaulted roofs, making them appear less like vessels and more like temples or opulent residences drifting on a small lake. The flawless combination of shipbuilding techniques, complex mechanics, and architectural artistry in the Nemi ships demonstrates that the Romans were not merely building ships for practical use, but creating symbols of power and intellect. Today, every technical detail uncovered from these two ships compels us to reflect. Could it be that Roman civilization once reached technological heights that modern humanity has only just begun to recognize? Although the sophisticated engineering of the two Nemi ships has been clearly demonstrated, their true purpose remains an unanswered question. Some believe they were lavish floating palaces, where Caligula held banquets to showcase his infamous power and extravagance. Another theory suggests they were constructed as floating temples dedicated to the goddess Diana, since Lake Nemi was closely tied to rituals of divine worship. Meanwhile, many modern scholars lean toward the idea that the ships were a technological experiment built to prove the might and advancement of Roman engineering rather than serve a practical function. Yet the larger question still lingers: why create such enormous and complex constructions on a small, narrow lake entirely unsuitable for navigation? Perhaps their purpose was not rooted in practicality or warfare, but instead carried symbolic mystical significance, maybe even a special religious ritual whose meaning we still cannot fully comprehend today. After Caligula's assassination, many of his works were destroyed to erase the memory of a tyrant. The two ships in Lake Nemi were also sunk, perhaps deliberately. For nearly 2,000 years, they existed only in legend until the 20th century, when Benito Mussolini ordered the lake drained for excavation. Between 1929 and 1932, when the ships were raised, the world was stunned by their magnificence and advanced technology. A museum was built by the lake to house them. Yet tragedy struck in 1944 during World War II. Both ships were destroyed in a fire. To this day, the true cause remains unclear. Some claim retreating German soldiers set the fire, others believe Allied bombs ignited it. The truth is still cloaked in mystery. Today, only a few bronze artifacts, ceramics, and charred timbers remain in the museum. Digital 3D reconstructions now allow us to glimpse the grandeur of the Nemi ships, but their loss continues to be a profound wound in the field of archaeology. Despite their destruction, the Nemi ships left behind an invaluable legacy. They proved that Roman shipbuilding was far from simple. In fact, it may have reached a level approaching modern standards. Features such as metal rudders, water systems, mechanical anchors, and waterproofed hulls revealed a level of technological mastery far ahead of its age. More importantly, the Nemi ships raise profound questions about the relationship between technology power and religion in the ancient world. Did Caligula truly intend to flaunt his power through engineering marvels, or was he performing mystical rituals that remain incomprehensible to us today? The Nemi ships were not merely colossal vessels, but symbols of the union between mad ambition and refined engineering in the Roman Empire. They stand as evidence of timeless craftsmanship while remaining an unresolved enigma. What remains is not only charred wood and metal relics, but also a question that still challenges humanity. How could an ancient civilization create such complex marvels? And have we truly understood the full extent of Roman technological genius? In the history and mythology of humankind, there are figures who are both revered as symbols of power and cloaked in such mystery that it is nearly impossible to distinguish truth from legend. The Queen of Sheba is precisely such a figure. Her image appears in the Hebrew Bible, in the Quran of Islam, in Ethiopian traditions, as well as in numerous Arab and African folk tales. What is striking is that despite being mentioned in so many different sources, her true origins have never been clarified. This has fueled endless debates among scholars for centuries and is the very reason Sheba has endured as a timeless emblem of mystery. So what do you think was the Queen of Sheba? Truly from Yemen, from Ethiopia, or merely a symbolic figure of religious legend? Leave your thoughts and perspectives in the comments below. Among all the mysteries surrounding the Queen of Sheba, nothing troubles researchers more than the question, where was her true homeland? Unlike other historical figures who often leave behind archaeological traces or clear records, Sheba exists as a vague image appearing in religion, present in legend, yet lacking any concrete evidence to pinpoint her identity. This very absence has turned her origins into one of the longest-standing debates in archaeology and ancient history. In the Hebrew Bible, she is simply called the Queen of Sheba, who came to Jerusalem to test King Solomon's wisdom. The name Sheba immediately recalls Saba, an ancient kingdom that flourished in South Arabia in what is now Yemen. This kingdom was famed for its wealth from the trade of incense, frankincense, myrrh, and gold, and it controlled the key trade routes linking the Indian Ocean with the Mediterranean. Many archaeologists believe that if Sheba was indeed Saba, then the Queen of Sheba must have been a powerful Arabian monarch, and her journey to Jerusalem carried clear diplomatic and political significance to establish ties with a renowned king like Solomon in order to expand economic and cultural influence. However, Ethiopian tradition presents an entirely different story. In the Kebra Nagast, the Ethiopian Holy Chronicle, Sheba is not a Yemeni queen, but Makeda, the Queen of Ethiopia. She is said to have traveled thousands of miles to meet Solomon, and later gave birth to Menelik the founding king of the Ethiopian dynasty. What makes this theory even more compelling is the belief that Menelik I brought the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem to Ethiopia. For Ethiopians, this not only explained the origin of their royal lineage, but also affirmed Ethiopia as a land chosen by God, entrusted with the holiest relic of Judaism and Christianity. This belief became a pillar of Ethiopian national identity for centuries, reinforcing both its political and religious status. Meanwhile, the Quran introduces Sheba under the name Bilqis, a mighty queen who possessed a radiant throne. The Quran does not specify the exact location of her rule, but medieval Islamic scholars offered many interpretations. Some believed she came from Saba in Yemen, while others insisted Ethiopia was her true realm. This deliberate ambiguity made Sheba a cross-cultural icon belonging to Arab tradition, while also finding a firm place in Ethiopian history, and at the same time being revered throughout the Islamic world as an exemplary figure. From these fragmented accounts, we can see that Sheba might have been an Arabian queen ruling a prosperous trading empire, an Ethiopian monarch seen as the mother of a dynasty and directly linked to the Ark of the Covenant, or simply a legendary figure created to legitimize the political and religious aspirations of ancient peoples. It is precisely this ambiguity that has created a historical void, where fact and legend intertwine, ensuring that Sheba remains forever one of the most enigmatic figures of antiquity. She could just as well have been a real queen walking across the deserts of Yemen as she could have been a symbolic figure reflecting the faith and national pride of Ethiopia. And for that very reason, over thousands of years, Sheba has not lost her allure. On the contrary, she has increasingly become the focal point of quests, theories, and humanity's unending imagination. Regardless of where her homeland truly was, all sources agree that Sheba had a momentous encounter with King Solomon, one of the most famous kings in Jewish history. She came to Jerusalem with a grand entourage, bringing gold spices and precious stones, and most notably, a series of challenging riddles to test Solomon's wisdom. According to the Bible, Solomon answered all her questions, and Sheba was astonished by his wisdom. Meanwhile, Ethiopian and Islamic traditions add another layer of drama that a romantic bond developed between the two, leading to the birth of Menelik and Ney. Although there is no archaeological evidence for this, the story was powerful enough to serve as the legendary foundation for an Ethiopian dynasty that endured for millennia. Sheba stood out not only for her intellect and beauty, but also for her extraordinary wealth. Descriptions of her entourage, offerings, and throne often exceed ordinary imagination. In the Quran, Bilqis's throne is described as so magnificent and mysterious that Solomon, by divine power, had it transported to Jerusalem in an instant. These images reflect both opulence and authority, while also bearing the mark of religious myth, elevating Sheba beyond the category of a historical figure to that of a transcendent symbol. What makes the Queen of Sheba truly remarkable is that she does not belong exclusively to any single culture, but instead appears across multiple religious and historical traditions. In Judaism and Christianity, she is revered as a symbol of wisdom and devotion, representing the human quest for knowledge and understanding. In Islam, she appears as Bilqis, a powerful queen who ultimately embraced the true faith, becoming a model of enlightenment and justice. In Ethiopia, she is regarded as the foremother of the nation, the founder of the royal dynasty, and forever linked with the sacred Ark of the Covenant. Thus, Sheba is not merely a solitary historical figure, but a mirror reflecting the faith, identity, and aspirations of many ancient civilizations. To this day, the Queen of Sheba continues to leave behind countless unanswered questions, and it is precisely these gaps that have made her one of the most studied legendary figures in history. Where exactly was the Kingdom of Sheba Was it the prosperous land of Saba in Yemen or Ethiopia with the legacy of the Kebra Nagast? Was the Queen of Sheba herself a real flesh-and-blood historical figure, or merely a construct woven from religious faith and political necessity? And what about the mystery of the Ark of the Covenant? Was it truly brought to Ethiopia through her lineage, or simply a legend created to reinforce national identity? These unresolved questions with no definitive answers have given rise to countless theories and ensured that Sheba remains an inexhaustible subject for archaeology, history, and theology, where every hypothesis only adds to the allure of a mystery that has endured for millennia. If one views Sheba solely as a historical figure, disappointment is inevitable, as archaeological evidence remains scarce. But if one sees Sheba as a symbol, her power becomes clear: a queen who transcended religious, cultural, and geographical boundaries, becoming a legend revered by millions. It is precisely her uncertain origins, Yemen or Ethiopia real or myth, that have given the Queen of Sheba her enduring allure. Her story reflects not only the wisdom and authority of a queen, but also humanity's perpetual quest to find in history symbols that affirm identity, faith, and hope. And that is why, after thousands of years, Sheba remains an unsolved mystery. The Bermuda Triangle, often referred to as the Devil's Triangle, has captivated the imagination of explorers, scientists, and the general public for decades. Located in the North Atlantic Ocean, this enigmatic region is roughly defined by 3 points: Florida in the United States, the island of Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. The area encompasses thousands of square miles of ocean, forming a triangle that has become notorious for mysterious disappearances, unexplained phenomena, and an enduring reputation as one of the greatest unsolved enigmas of the modern world. What do you think truly lies behind the Bermuda Triangle mystery? Magnetic anomalies, natural forces, or something beyond science? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The legend of the Bermuda Triangle gained global attention in the 20th century after a series of high-profile disappearances. The most famous is Flight 19 in December 1945, when 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers vanished during a training mission. Despite clear radio communication, at first the pilots reported disorientation and malfunctioning compasses. Shortly afterward, all 5 planes disappeared without a trace, along with the rescue planes sent to find them. Similar cases followed with ships and planes, lost in circumstances that baffled investigators. In many instances, no wreckage was recovered, no distress signals were heard, and sometimes vessels were later found drifting aimlessly with no crew on board, resembling ghost ships. What makes the Bermuda Triangle so unsettling is the near absence of physical evidence. Unlike typical maritime accidents where debris or black boxes can be retrieved, many incidents in the Triangle leave nothing behind. Even in the modern age of advanced satellite monitoring and search and rescue technologies, wreckage is often elusive. The Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current that sweeps through the region, could scatter debris far away, but the sheer consistency of clean vanishings has fueled deeper suspicions. Among all the theories and reported phenomena, magnetic anomalies stand out as the most persistent and scientifically intriguing. The Bermuda Triangle is one of the very few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north line up perfectly. Normally, compasses point toward magnetic north, which is offset from true north by several degrees. Navigators account for this difference, known as magnetic declination. However, within parts of the triangle, this declination disappears. In theory, this could lead to navigational errors if sailors and pilots assume they must correct for a difference that does not exist, steering them off course. But the story does not end with declination. Numerous reports from pilots and captains describe compasses spinning erratically or freezing in place, pointing in directions that made no sense. These accounts are not limited to Flight 19. Civilian aviators and shipping crews across decades have noted sudden instrument failure or inexplicable shifts in readings. If such anomalies occurred during poor weather or at night, they could easily cause fatal disorientation. Some scientists suggest that these phenomena might be linked to localized variations in the Earth's geomagnetic field. The Atlantic seafloor is riddled with deep trenches, ridges, and deposits of magnetized rock that could, under certain conditions, interfere with navigation instruments. Furthermore, shifts in the planet's molten iron core constantly alter the geomagnetic field, and regions like the Bermuda Triangle may experience more instability than others. Critics argue that natural explanations suffice for most Bermuda Triangle mysteries. The region is prone to sudden storms, waterspouts, and powerful hurricanes. These can appear with little warning, especially before the advent of modern weather forecasting. The Gulf Stream, running like a fast-moving river within the ocean, can sweep away ships in distress or disperse wreckage across vast distances, making recovery nearly impossible. Rogue waves towering walls of water exceeding 30 meters are also now scientifically documented and could easily sink large vessels. Another scientific explanation lies beneath the ocean floor. Large deposits of methane, hydrate frozen gas, locked in seabed sediments, exist in many parts of the Atlantic. If destabilized methane could suddenly erupt, reducing the water's density and causing ships to lose buoyancy and sink almost instantly. Escaping gas could also ignite, creating catastrophic explosions that might explain sudden disappearances of planes flying low over the water. While intriguing, this theory has not been conclusively proven for the triangle. Despite scientific explanations, the Bermuda Triangle remains fertile ground for myths and fantastical speculation. Some writers propose that it is a gateway to another dimension or a time warp where objects slip into parallel universes. Others suggest alien involvement, claiming UFOs abduct ships and planes. Another enduring myth ties the region to the lost city of Atlantis, imagining advanced technologies still active beneath the waves, interfering with modern navigation. While lacking evidence, such stories keep the Bermuda Triangle alive in popular culture and ensure its place in the pantheon of unsolved mysteries. Interestingly, modern studies indicate that the rate of accidents in the Bermuda Triangle is not significantly higher than in any other heavily traveled region of the ocean. The sheer volume of ships and aircraft passing through makes occasional accidents statistically inevitable. Many skeptics argue that media sensationalism and selective reporting have exaggerated the triangle's reputation. Still, this does not erase the testimonies of seasoned pilots and sailors who experience strange compass behavior and inexplicable malfunctions in the area. The emphasis on magnetic anomalies is central because it represents a tangible, measurable phenomenon that distinguishes the Bermuda Triangle from other regions. Unlike UFOs or mythical civilizations, the Earth's magnetic field is real, observable, and scientifically documented. Even small disruptions in navigation during the pre-GPS era could spell disaster. A pilot flying by compass alone, suddenly experiencing erratic instrument readings, would find themselves disoriented in minutes, especially over an ocean with no visual landmarks. Mariners relying on compasses for centuries could also have easily been misled. Moreover, the alignment of true north and magnetic north within the triangle is unique and historically significant. Early explorers like Christopher Columbus reportedly documented strange compass behavior near the region. Columbus's logs mention unusual fluctuations in readings during his voyages across the Atlantic, further embedding the idea that something different exists in these waters. The Bermuda Triangle persists as a riddle precisely because it straddles the line between science and legend. Meteorological phenomena, treacherous currents, and human error explain much of what happens there. Yet the consistent thread of compass failures and magnetic anomalies remains a striking feature that science has yet to fully explain. Ultimately, the Bermuda Triangle is not merely about vanished ships and planes, it is a symbol of humanity's enduring fascination with the unknown. It challenges our confidence in technology, navigation, and science, reminding us that even in the modern age, there are places on Earth where certainty fades into mystery. Whether one views it as a zone of magnetic oddities, a statistical illusion magnified by media, or a supernatural riddle, the Bermuda Triangle remains one of the most iconic mysteries of the sea. When people speak of the greatest monuments of prehistoric humanity, many immediately think of the pyramids of Egypt or the stone circle of Stonehenge in England. Yet few know that in the heart of the Mediterranean lies a small archipelago called Malta, which preserves megalithic structures even older than both the pyramids and Stonehenge. These are the gigantic temples of Gantija Hagar, Chimmenidra, Taxian Scorba, and many other sites recognized by UNESCO as World Heritage Sites and often referred to as the oldest temples in the world. These temples date from around 3600 to 2500 BCE, meaning they have stood for over 5,000 to 6,000 years. Even more astonishing is the fact that they were built in a period when the inhabitants of Malta were only early farming communities without metal tools, without the wheel, and without any lifting machinery. Yet they managed to erect colossal architectural works with stone blocks weighing tens of tons, arranged in deliberate patterns and meanings, and even aligned with important celestial events such as the equinoxes and solstices. This very feature has made Malta's temples one of the most captivating archaeological mysteries on Earth. How do you think the ancient Maltese people without metal tools or the wheel could have transported and erected stone blocks weighing up to 50 tons so precisely, especially in alignment with celestial events? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If one had to identify the greatest mystery of Malta's megalithic temples, it would undoubtedly be the construction techniques employed by the ancient inhabitants. The colossal stones at Gantija reach up to 6 meters in height and weigh between 20 and 50 tons. Merely extracting such blocks from the quarries would have been an extraordinary challenge, not to mention transporting them across rugged terrain and placing them precisely to form the massive walls and complex enclosures. For decades, archaeologists have wrestled with a central question: how could the ancient Maltese, without the wheel, without iron tools, equipped only with flint or rudimentary copper, possibly cut, move, and erect such massive stones with such precision? A common hypothesis suggests they may have used round stone rollers or wooden sledges to drag the blocks across the ground. Yet archaeology has uncovered no direct evidence to confirm this. In fact, at several sites around Malta, researchers have found deep ruts, sometimes up to 60 centimeters deep, cut into the limestone bedrock, resembling the traces of enormous wheels. Scholars continue to debate, were these truly transport tracks or part of some ritual system yet to be decoded? If they were indeed transport routes, then these ruts imply that the ancient Maltese had developed a unique method of moving megaliths unlike any other civilization of the same era. Even more astonishing is the accuracy with which the temples were aligned. Many stones and entire structures are positioned to match the sunrise at the equinox or solstice, functioning as a kind of giant astronomical calendar in stone. This demonstrates that the ancient Maltese not only possessed remarkable technical skills in stone construction, but also precise astronomical knowledge and a deep understanding of cosmic cycles knowledge they integrated seamlessly into their religious architecture. Yet the crucial question remains unanswered. How did they measure and align these structures so precisely to the point where even a minor deviation would have disrupted the entire astronomical function? Even with today's technology, archaeologists using cranes, laser surveying, and advanced measuring equipment still admit building Malta's temples with the means available 6,000 years ago was a feat beyond imagination. For this reason, many scholars have compared them to the Great Pyramid of Giza, the icon of ancient engineering, and some even argue that Malta is more mysterious since its temples predate Egypt by centuries. To stand before these monumental structures is not only to witness the ruins of prehistory, but also to confront an unresolved question about human ingenuity and creativity at the dawn of civilization. One of the most unique and mysterious aspects of the megalithic temples of Malta lies in their architecture and spiritual meaning. Far from being just massive stone walls, many of the temples feature twin apses or double spiral layouts thought to symbolize fertility cycles, the endless rhythm of life, and humanity's connection with the cosmos. Such arrangements were not random. They seem to embody a complex symbolic mindset, showing that the ancient Maltese built their temples not only as places of gathering, but as reflections of profound religious beliefs. At the Tarxian site, archaeologists uncovered sacrificial altars, along with carvings of animals such as goats, sheep, and pigs, clear evidence of ritual offerings. Even more striking are the numerous small figurines of women with full bodies, rounded bellies, and wide hips, identified as mother goddess statues, symbols of fertility and agricultural abundance. The sheer abundance of these figurines confirms that the ancient Maltese had a belief system centered on the power of the goddess, illustrating the close relationship between the community's survival and the cycles of nature. This dimension elevates the temples beyond mere physical constructions, turning them into sacred spaces that encapsulate religious faith and symbolic knowledge from a lost civilization. In Maltese folklore, it is said that giants built the temples. The very name Gantija means the Temple of the Giants. Legend tells of a giantess who, while pregnant, built the temple in a single day so she could feed her child with bread. Though it sounds fantastical, one only needs to look at the size of the megaliths to understand why ancient people believed only giants could have constructed them. One of the elements that makes the megalithic temples of Malta even more mysterious is the sudden disappearance of the culture that created them. After thousands of years of use, around 2500 BCE, the temples were abruptly abandoned, and the entire community that had once dedicated their efforts to building these monumental structures vanished without leaving any clear trace. Archaeologists have found no evidence of war or invasion, nor any signs of devastating natural disasters, such as earthquakes or tsunamis sweeping through the islands. This has given rise to several hypotheses. Perhaps prolonged droughts drained the water supply. Perhaps resources were exhausted due to rapid population growth. Or perhaps an epidemic ravaged the community. Some scholars suggest that they may have abandoned Malta altogether, migrating to more favorable lands. Yet all of these remain mere speculations, for to this day, the true reason behind this disappearance remains a complete mystery, leaving an unanswerable gap in human history. Today, the megalithic temples of Malta have been recognized by UNESCO as World Heritage Sites, becoming priceless archaeological treasures of humanity. Yet behind this glory lies a series of unanswered questions that continue to fuel scholarly debate. Who were the people that truly built these colossal monuments, and with what tools or techniques could they have transported and erected stone blocks weighing tens of tons? Why were their structures aligned with such precision that they perfectly match significant celestial events such as the equinoxes and solstices? And finally, why did a culture that once flourished so magnificently suddenly vanish after centuries of existence? These mysteries remain shrouded in darkness, making the temples of Malta not only material heritage, but also a profound challenge to modern human knowledge and understanding. The megalithic temples of Malta are far more than mere ancient ruins. They stand as testimony to the extraordinary ingenuity of prehistoric people we often assume were limited to primitive farming and hunting. The existence of such colossal structures challenges history itself. Perhaps early humans were more intelligent and innovative than we have ever believed. These massive stones, weighing tens of tons, raised without metal tools or wheels, still stand in the Mediterranean as a silent challenge to modern science. They compel us to ask, did there once exist a civilization that flourished brilliantly before fading into oblivion? And if so, what secrets still lie hidden beneath Malta's limestone, waiting to be uncovered? Among the thousands of ancient manuscripts unearthed in the caves of Qumran, none has stirred as much wonder and controversy as the copper scroll of the Dead Sea. Unlike the sacred prayers laws and biblical commentaries preserved on parchment and papyrus, this scroll is unlike anything else hammered onto sheets of copper. It whispers of hidden treasures buried across the ancient land. Yet beyond its promise of gold and silver lies a deeper riddle. Why was such a record created? Who could have possessed such immense wealth? And why did it end up hidden alongside the holiest texts of antiquity? The Copper Scroll is not just a document. It is a challenge thrown across millennia, daring us to unravel its origin and purpose. If the Copper Scroll truly recorded real treasures, who do you think could have hidden such immense wealth? The guardians of the Jerusalem Temple, the Qumran sect, or someone else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What makes the Copper Scroll most unique lies in the very material from which it was created. While more than 900 other scrolls at Qumran were written on parchment or papyrus common and relatively easy materials to work with, at the time, the Copper Scroll was engraved directly onto sheets of pure copper. This was an extremely rare and costly choice, since hammering the copper thin and then inscribing each character onto the metal surface was far more difficult than simply writing ink on paper. Such painstaking effort and durability have led many scholars to believe that this was no ordinary text, but one deliberately made to endure through centuries, resisting both time and nature. This sense of permanence has fueled the theory that its content must have carried extraordinary significance, perhaps instructions to hidden treasures or knowledge considered priceless, preserved intentionally for future generations. When researchers deciphered the Copper Scroll, they were astonished by its content, which bore no resemblance to any other scroll in the Qumran collection. Instead of prayers, religious laws, or biblical commentaries, this scroll presented a detailed inventory of treasures buried at more than 60 different locations. The text lists precise amounts of gold, silver, and other valuable objects, with an estimated total reaching tens of tons of precious metals, a figure far beyond the capacity of any known ancient community. What stands out most is its starkly pragmatic style, concise, matter-of-fact, focusing solely on places and quantities with no trace of religion or reference to the divine. This striking out-of-tune quality has led many scholars to label it less a sacred manuscript and more a practical treasure guide. However, it is precisely this difference that raises the biggest question: what is the true origin of the Copper Scroll? Among the many theories proposed, the most prominent is the idea that the Copper Scroll actually records the treasures of the Jerusalem Temple. According to this view, before the Romans destroyed the temple in 70 CE, its guardians may have hurriedly concealed the sacred wealth at numerous secret locations to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. If true, the Copper Scroll would be a kind of treasure map created to preserve the memory of these hiding places so they could one day be recovered. However, what challenges this theory is that most other historical sources related to the temple make no mention of such an immense hoard of wealth. This silence has led many scholars to doubt the claim, raising the critical question: did such a treasure truly exist, or was it instead a product of imagination, exaggeration, or myth carried across generations? Some scholars suggest that the Copper Scroll may have originated directly from the Qumran sect, the group that preserved most of the Dead Sea Scrolls. According to this theory, the community might have accumulated wealth over generations or safeguarded sacred objects and rare ritual items, recording the hiding places to protect them from historical upheavals. This explanation seems plausible, given that the Copper Scroll was found alongside other scrolls in the caves, suggesting it could have been part of their collective holdings. However, the puzzle lies in the enormous scale of the treasure, described tens of tons of gold and silver, something highly improbable for an ascetic sect living in isolation in the desert. This contradiction keeps the theory controversial and without a definitive answer. Another approach is that the Copper Scroll is not a real inventory, but a symbolic or ritualistic work. In this view, the treasure could represent knowledge, spiritual enlightenment, or divine rewards for the faithful. This interpretation would explain why no physical treasure has ever been discovered. However, it conflicts with the very practical and detailed language of the text. One of the most debated aspects of the Copper Scroll lies in its language and writing style. Scholars have observed that the Hebrew used in this text shows many unusual features compared to most other Qumran manuscripts, from vocabulary choices and sentence structures to its concise, almost dry tone. These differences raise a critical question. Was it truly composed by the Qumran community, or did it only end up in the caves by chance? If not written by them, then who created it, and why would it have been hidden alongside sacred texts? Many scholars suggest that the Copper Scroll may have followed its own distinct historical journey, reflecting a context and purpose entirely separate from the rest of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Even the circumstances of its discovery add to the mystery. The Copper Scroll was found in 1952 in Cave 3 at Qumran, heavily oxidized. To read it, experts had to cut it into pieces, a drastic but necessary step. When reassembled, the content revealed no prayers or philosophy, only dry instructions about treasure. This out-of-place nature made many believe it was not originally from Qumran at all, but merely placed there later. If the Copper Scroll truly is a record of real treasures, then the greatest question remains: where are they? For decades, numerous archaeological teams and treasure hunters have searched diligently following the clues in the text, yet all efforts have ended in frustration. No single site has matched the descriptions completely, and no physical evidence has ever been found to confirm the existence of such massive hoards. This leaves only two possibilities: either the treasures were unearthed long ago and left no trace, or they never existed at all, serving instead as symbolic or legendary records. This uncertainty has turned the Copper Scroll into one of the greatest enduring enigmas of biblical archaeology. The greatest value of the copper scroll lies not only in the lost treasures it describes, but in the profound mystery of its origin. Why would such a non-religious, pragmatic, and matter-of-fact document appear among the sacred manuscripts of Qumran? Who could have held the power and wealth to own the immense hoard it records? Why was copper a rare and durable medium, chosen over parchment or leather to preserve the message? And if the treasure truly existed, why has it left no trace through centuries of history? These unanswered questions not only make the Copper Scroll an enduring archaeological enigma, but also a mirror reflecting the limits of our knowledge about the ancient world. To this day, the Copper Scroll of the Dead Sea remains one of the great enigmas of biblical archaeology. It could be the legacy of the Jerusalem Temple, the secret wealth of an ancient community, or merely a symbolic ritual text. But whatever it is, it continues to stir scholarly debate and inspire treasure hunts that have lasted more than half a century. The Copper Scroll is more than a document. It is a challenge from the past, a door to countless theories and enduring proof of humanity's eternal mysteries. At the mouth of the Singapore River once stood a colossal sandstone slab, towering like a sentinel of forgotten times. Upon its surface were lines of strange, ancient inscriptions, symbols that no one has ever been able to read. To sailors, it was a landmark. To locals, a relic of legend. And to historians, it became one of the greatest mysteries of Southeast Asia. But in 1843, this priceless artifact was shattered, its secrets scattered into fragments. What message did it once carry? A royal decree, a record of a lost kingdom, or perhaps a warning meant for future generations? The Singapore stone remains a riddle, carved in silence, a reminder that some chapters of history resist being told. So what do you think the mysterious inscriptions on the Singapore stone might have recorded? A vanished kingdom, an ancient royal decree, or perhaps a warning left for future generations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. According to historical records, the Singapore stone was a sandstone block about 3 meters high and several meters wide, situated at the mouth of the Singapore River near today's Fort Fullerton. For ships in earlier times, it served as a gigantic natural marker indicating an important trading hub. Local people considered it sacred, linking it with legends of ancient heroes and founding kings. Tragically, in 1843, the British colonial authorities decided to demolish the stone to widen the passage for shipping. This act not only erased a rare relic from the pre-colonial era, but also severed a direct link to Singapore's ancient past. Only a few fragments were collected and preserved at the National Museum of Singapore. The greatest and most fascinating mystery of the Singapore stone lies in the ancient inscriptions carved upon its surface. This single feature transformed it from an ordinary sandstone block into an invaluable cultural and linguistic relic, a testimony that scholars have always longed to decipher. According to records left by the first British witnesses who saw the stone, the characters appeared densely arranged, deeply incised into the rock, stretching out in neat rows. Sadly, none of them could make sense of the script. Before archaeologists and linguists had the chance to study it thoroughly, most of the inscriptions vanished, along with the stone's destruction in 1843. Today, only a few fragments remain in museums, preserving scattered characters like puzzle pieces that can never be reassembled into the full picture. From these few surviving shards, many theories have emerged. Some scholars suggest that the script was Kawi, widely used in Java and Bali from the 9th century. If true, this would prove that Singapore was far from isolated, but instead closely tied to Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms of the Indonesian archipelago. Another group of researchers point to similarities with Sanskrit, a script once central to the spread of religion, literature, and politics in ancient India. This hypothesis raises the possibility that the Singapore stone carried a religious text, a hymn in praise of the gods, or a royal decree with political weight. Yet others propose that it might represent an entirely unique writing system created by a local community previously unknown to history. If this is correct, then the Singapore stone is not only a rare artifact, but also evidence of a lost civilization erased from memory. Still deciphering the inscriptions is nearly impossible. The main reason is their premature destruction, which erased as much as 90% of the text. The surviving characters are fragmented and devoid of context, like holding only scraps of a burned ancient letter, while the core message has vanished. Linguists lack sufficient material to reconstruct sentence structures, grammar, or vocabulary. Moreover, Southeast Asia has always been a region of constant script evolution, influenced by Indian Chinese and indigenous traditions. This blending and overlapping of systems makes identifying the stone's script even more challenging. Today, the remaining fragments are displayed at the National Museum of Singapore, not only as archaeological artifacts, but also as an enduring, unanswered question. Did the inscriptions once record the name of an ancient king, a glorious victory, a curse meant to deter invaders, or were they nothing more than a trade document publicly posted at the river's gateway? So far, all we have are hypotheses. The silence of the stone itself has made it a symbol, a place where the past leaves behind clues yet refuses to reveal the truth. And perhaps this is the Singapore stone's greatest allure, an undeciphered linguistic mystery never read, and perhaps destined never to be solved. Even without understanding the inscriptions, people have associated the Singapore stone with folklore and history. Some legends say it bore the footprint of Sri Tri Buana Sang Nila Utama, the mythical king who named Singapura. Others suggest the stone carried an ancient curse meant to warn those who trespassed on this land. Academic theories propose it might have been a victory monument or a legal text engraved for a local community. Its location at the river's mouth, a gateway for trade, supports the idea that it functioned as a welcoming stele or a ritual marker similar to other Southeast Asian monuments of the same era. Had it remained intact, the Singapore stone might have provided direct evidence that Singapore was once a center of a complex civilization, not merely a fishing village before the British arrived. It could have preserved the name of a kingdom, a king, or a major historical event now completely unknown to us. Its destruction left deep regret among scholars. It is regarded as one of Singapore's most tragic archaeological losses, and also as a reminder of the importance of protecting heritage before it is too late. Today, the Singapore stone is not only an archaeological artifact, but also a cultural symbol. The fragments displayed in the museum stand as proof of a forgotten history, an unsolved riddle. They spark curiosity. Were the inscriptions a historical record, a hymn to the gods, or simply a note about ancient trade? The question still lingers, and perhaps it will forever remain a mystery of Singapore. The Singapore stone, though surviving only in memory and fragments, still carries immense weight. It represents what we have lost to time, but also reminds us that beneath the dust of history, countless untold stories remain. If one day, thanks to new technology or related archaeological discoveries, the remaining characters can be deciphered, Singapore may have to rewrite part of its own history. But until then, the Singapore stone will remain a mystery deeply etched into humanity's memory, where past and present converge on an unreadable stele.